What is up, my friends? So, what cop? It is Dan Tom here. I am back. I'm alive. It's good to see you. Yes, this show, I guess, right? This is what we're here for, the Protect Your Neck podcast. Let's see if I still remember how to do this show, this shit show that is, yes, back in your life, so to speak. Shout out to Ariel Helwani. Don't want to, trademark infringe as I try to, grease myself back in here, but so awesome to see you guys. We got people already in the chat, some old school regulars, my guy Tony C, Anthony in the house, Dan the man back in the saddle, miss you buddy, Rio Sozen Truesdale, I'm really happy to see you back now. I'm really happy to see you guys. He continues, I hope your time away from the space has been good for you, because in the end that's what matters. Every one of us is trying to encourage you. I appreciate that. You guys' encouragement means a lot. I apologize to leave you hanging. As much as I pull my hair out to figure out why anybody would come here to listen to this show, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate you guys so much. You guys really keep me going. Please feel free to fill the chat. Believe it or not, I'm walking. I'm actually gonna try not to talk too much. Wow. I know, right? About, recapping, or there's too much to recap, and we can just sum the recap really easily. Just think of anything crazy like injuries, eye pokes, crazy scorecards, decisions, injuries, any of those things that have happened since I've seen you guys last. Again, the challenge that I've had for over a year, and no one's been able to top it yet. I think we've only found 3 since 2021 or 2020. About 3 or 4 injuries or bad calls that I've been on the wrong side of. And all of those, by the way, despite winning with class, still went on to lose the event. So it was kind of fuck all. That trend continued. So there's the recap for you. Just think of any kind of fucked up thing. You can go to my record over on the Action Network. I've still been plugging away, keeping track of bets and stuff for the gamblers in the house. I know we share analysts, fight nerds, fight fans, hardcores. We all kind of share a similar space, but for the gamblers in the house, I've been keeping that record up to tab for you guys if you just want to, revel in the majesty of variance or lack thereof. But yeah, there's the recap. That wasn't that fast. I'm going to recap a little bit of, what you guys are putting in here, but that's going to be mainly for the end. I'm really going to just try to work. What do we do from bottom to top? We go from top to bottom in the show. I'm sorry. I'm learning how to swim again, folks. Right here in front of you. I'm just going to go from top to bottom because it is a full card breakdown. And for my quick picks and prognostications, they actually wanted a full one over at Junkie, which I'm going to get cracking on this right now. I already finished, my videos last weekend. Got the last of my writtens done throughout the week. I don't know if any of those are up. It's been crazy, man. I've been trying to get it as early as I can. All the outlets are hungry for content as early as they can. They want it. But for those asking where it's at as far as my Junkie content, I'm not sure. It's probably on its way somewhere around the site maybe. But you guys are here, so you guys are going to get the first crack at it, as well as my plays, because I've got a ridiculous stack of plays. I've done a ridiculous amount of tape. I'm still in the middle of some tape. Still got 2 more in the Southpaw report to go. I'll be able to give you those records, weigh in on one, which is, kind of negligent. We'll get to that. And another one. To do that, I finally marked out all my footage for that Bobby Green video I've been trying to put together for like months. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that done tonight. We'll see, because I really got to get this in by late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So that's kind of what's on the horizon. I just turned in my BMF breakdown there for Action Network. That should turn around rather fast. Got the co-headliner up there at Action Network as well. At the time of this recording. So now that we're all caught up, good to see you guys in the house. Mark Fellows in the house from Australia. What's up, Mark? The world traveler. What do you mean the world traveler? Coming from you, the horse's mouth over there? You help inspire my travels, Mark. Living it up, eating fine food. You guys inspire me. Look who's back. Phantom Punch breakdowns. Ghost Phantom in the house. Holding it down. Still giving your boy credit out there, which I appreciate. What's up, Dan? Good to see you. Good to see you again, my friend. It's Ghost, but I'm still partially... Well, that's crap that you're partially restricted, but I'm glad to see you still killing it. And I have such a hard time, and I'm not going to give you a hard time for it, with your dang name, sir. So I want to make sure I get it right over here. It's Ghost on Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter. By the way, I was gonna say, like, I noticed, like, you know, and it's totally a form of complimentary. I take it, and I don't mean this as shade, and I take it not as shade, and I don't even take it that seriously because it's probably not it. But I've actually been able to, like, listen to podcasts and kind of be a fan again, and catching up on podcasts from long since past, friends podcasts who I just wishing I listened more of, and whether it's like weird pronunciations or like certain words I use to like break things down and this and that. Like, I'm like, oh crap, like maybe, you know, my record might suck and I might suck, but that doesn't necessarily mean like I don't not know what I'm talking about. And that doesn't necessarily mean I don't like not influence the space, maybe even just a little, right? And that seemed pretty cool. But I was listening to a podcast that would have no bearing listening to me, but they use the artist formerly known as Twitter. I'm like, God damn it. But yeah, Ghost, here he is. Follow him, the artist formerly known as Twitter, at 9H6ST21 _MMA. He has his own unique analysis, does an excellent job, but he's so great about citing and shouting other analysts like myself and many other fine ones in the space. So definitely shout Jimmy Kudo. Speaking of the enforcers, I put up the bat signal up. My guy Jimmy Kudo answers the call. What is up? Oh, Joe, speaking artist formerly known as, this one's coming in from Twitter. What's up, Joe Z? Dan, great to have you back. Great for you to be here. James Kendrick in the house. No worries about leaving us hanging. Your personal health was more important than the podcast. I appreciate your work. I appreciate you guys, man. I really, you know, MMA, don't get me wrong, MMA's beating me right back down to where I was, but hopefully I'm glowing still. Hopefully I'm still looking healthy and high off the energy. Thailand was amazing. Don't be surprised if your boy, I'm definitely going back. Don't be surprised if your boy goes back there like for somewhat good. It was just awesome. Bangtown Muay Thai, all that stuff. Not going to be a recap show on that, but if you do want to ask questions on that, especially if it does pertain to the show or anything of the fighters, feel free to throw those in the chat. I'm going to get to those at the end and throughout as I can. Just wanted to make it through to last two, or after John Atlas here, last two regulars, and then we'll get on. Happy you are back for 300. Nice Blazer. Thank you. Trying to dress up for these shows. I was supposed to shoot a preview today, and I got like, your boy got some like nice custom suits down in Thailand. I was going to floss one today. It was kind of good because I've been so swamped in work. I really didn't have time to go down to the strip. Who knows? Maybe when I go place my bets tomorrow, I'll just fucking suit up. Fuck it, right? Who knows? But thank you guys for the love. Jin Karasu in the house. This is going to bring a tear to my eye. Dan, so happy to see you back, even just for a one-off. Yeah, so a one-off. I always think of a one-off as some weird sexual thing. But anyways, I'm happy to be back. My head is still clearly in the gutter. Brad Taschuk, welcome back, sir. Don't forget to bolt the door. Bolt the door if you're coming in. That's right, Jamal. Sean Connery. That's right, baby. Oh, my God. I missed so many classics, too, you know. I think we had, like, Devin Clark. You guys were missing David Clark, so I apologize. I'll do my best to get to those, but we are going to get to UFC 100. That's why we're here 8 minutes in. UFC 100, of course, headlined by Poatan Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Speaking of Jamal, right? All right, we got the opening odds for that. Not the opening odds. The odds have been doing a dance. A lot of people have been looking forward to this, and why not? I already had too much coffee today, and as you could tell, but you know, I still need some sugar. Jesus, damn, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I was like, I've been like, I'm not a big soda guy, but like when it's late at night, I can't justify a coffee. Maybe I've had too many coffees. All of the above in days like today, though, I need it. You know, barely on sleep and still like waking up to kick buck sheet to today. So yeah, I'm on reserves here, but like they got these healthy sodas, so like these prebiotic ones. You guys try these? There's a lot of really piss poor ones. You got to be careful. But like this is cherry vanilla. It's okay. I'm really liking strawberry vanilla. I feel like every brand I've tried their strawberry vanilla, that's usually a safe flavor. Kind of reminds you of them cream sodas as a kid. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a big soda guy, so for me it's like forbidden fruit. Like, I wasn't allowed to have these. These weren't around in the Dan Tom household. And I'd go to like sleep over a friend's house and be like, Dan, aren't you supposed to be bringing on the fight? I am. I'm pulling up the odds, all right? I just wanted to refresh it. Get it nice and fresh, you know, just like the food that didn't exist in my pantry growing up as a kid. All right, we got Alex Poatan Pereira, -130. Jamal Hill, +110. Of course, Pereira opened up as the favorite, which is kind of surprising to me because I wasn't expecting him to be popular. I expected him to be like the typical Brazilians, like hardcores, like you saw Brad Taschuk just make an appearance from the MMA analysis in the chat. I guess you can start to, throw old fuckers like me, pardon, language, I break it anyways every show, into that crowd, with the Du Bronxes and the Pantojas and whatnot. But it's nice to see, man. I think people eventually it makes sense. They like exciting fighters. And, when they're true to themselves and their style, whether it's blonde hair or indigenous headdresses, and, at least for people like myself, I don't know about you guys. I know it's the fight game. It doesn't matter. I get it. But, yeah, it doesn't hurt when, like, they seem like good people, giving back to their people, not forgetting where they come from. So Poatan's been very popular. And, of course, he's the more active fighter from a more X's and O's and brass tax standpoint, which we're talking about betting lines and prices right now. So, for that reason, not surprised at all to see him favored. And again, as the odds makers tend to design to do and try to dictate action on both sides of the line, say what you will, they were successful in a lot of these matchups, a lot of competitive matchups, a lot of ones that are hard to decide without the money, especially with the money, right? Unless you're super confident and not, having a betting recap that can essentially be explained by the American History X shower scene. Ow. Kind of hurt sitting down right now, speaking of which. If you are drinking frosty beverages, though, feel free to cheers with me. I used to do this when I would actually drink more and be silly enough to drink more on shows by myself. That was great, Dan. Cheers, guys. There we go. Cherry vanilla cheers here. And we're starting with the cherry on top of this card. And my prediction was Poatan was going to headline, but I thought it was going to be Adesanya. I'm sure they came to Adesanya with it, just probably wasn't ready. He'll champion at the bit to get back, but the question is he ready or not? It's tough to tell. He doesn't exactly have like the greatest physique, and people make fun of him for that. And I don't know, maybe it's because of a guy who naturally just wants to be paunched up, paunched up, the male version of the Pennington Paunch, right? I got some love for that, so I'm not going to hate on Hill for that, but it also makes it hard to tell where Hill is at. Was the focus on getting back down to weight? He looked very big. Typically people are getting smarter and realize you don't need to run. I mean, heck, not getting sidetracked, but what I loved about Thailand was walking everywhere. And I think that's what I can credit to losing a lot of the weight while I was there and keeping it off and eating my ass off, right? But either way, you're aware you're on your feet. And what did Hill have injured? Is his Achilles foot. By the way, shout out to my guy Liam Picks Fights. He tweeted out some injury turnaround lists. Knockout turnaround list. I don't think I've really seen people, us gamblers will often bring it up, but usually selectively, right? Because it's usually like confirmation bias. We'll bring it up to support a point we want to make because we made a bet, but kind of like my Southpaw report, you just try to put things, not misleading context, for the engagement bait, though that doesn't hurt because that apparently is the game. But at the same time, you don't want to tint it too much one way or the other. You want to give it as fair and open to interpretation as possible, even though it's not an unmolested product. It's pretty edited as far as my Southpaw clips go. Whereas back to injury and knockout turnarounds, which are pretty prevalent for this card as we'll go through, you can obviously just give those non-biased leads information. Granted, I'm not strolling through MMA gambling Twitter. The reason why I probably shout out the same people, which is probably why like a lot of people don't like me. He's like, he never shouts me out or whatever. Why does he shout out this fucking dude? Sorry, folks. The record shows most gambling Twitter, not a fan of your boy or this show. So I just try to shout the people I know that are friendly. So forgiveness there if I keep shouting the same people if you're doing something similar. But I retweeted that information. Which you can find over here at I'm rusty over here, man. A little creepy thumbs up there. Hey. At Dan Tom MMA, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Not only did I pull out the stops and in air quotes back, I really just, like I normally do, by the way, for the Stick to Sports crowd, I really just put out a bunch of analysis this week. But I also am sure to try to share out as much as my fellow analysts, the legit threaders out there, right? Like Ocelot had a great one on Poatan's kickboxing, at least what was available, right? Good stuff out there. So try to share that stuff as much as possible. And you have to go back to Poatan's kickboxing as I'm circling back toward the card. Don't worry, folks, staying on target. to find, some southpaw opposition, which you really don't find much. You find Bruno Rima or something like that, Rama or something like that. He's a switch stance guy. You got a dedicated southpaw and Moicano Silva. That's lower level, more Brazilian regional. You're even going further back. And Simon Mark is orthodox, but he will switch briefly to southpaw for body kicks. And that was kind of the common thread through all the kickboxers, regardless of their stance variations. And then carrying over into the MMA sample size from Bruno Silva, who is not listed as a southpaw. Officially doesn't list himself that way. He does switch. He did switch in that fight. But you see body quick kicks were the common thread, as well as your typical southpaw counters. Even that Powell kid who got knocked out by Reyes and ended up getting highlighted in the LFA as well by Poatan before he went into the UFC. If you go back and actually watch the fight, he does some well-timed, classic southpaw cross counters, and he didn't have the check hook in his, but that check hook could be live. It's one of Jamal Hill's best shots. I think Jamal Hill's a right-handed southpaw, which would make sense because a lot of right-handed southpaws can't help but switch, whether you're talking about shitty know-nothings like me or top of the food chain Dustin Poirier's, right? Granted, when I talked to Chris Curtis, I asked him if he was right-handed southpaw, and he said, yeah, you called it. Chris Curtis really doesn't switch to orthodox too much, but you know what I mean? It's not uncommon for people who are right-handed southpaws to switch. And we saw Jamal, switch to orthodox against old man Glover. Maybe Glover's age was giving him some Forrester vibes, and he was a little tense. He was a little clenched up. He changed the stance there. No, just kidding. But he actually comported himself quite well. However, against Poatan, I think the pluses versus the negatives are going to be worth it. The right hand, particularly from that stance, will be there. Right hands have been a common culprit against Poatan. He's got that kind of blind spot there. And I don't even know if it's a blind spot or just his kind of suspect lackadaisical defense, whether you're questioning his attitude, is he checking out, or just the obvious eye test. He's got that lower-handed approach. Sure, he's trying to draw you in, but we can all get too comfortable and, I suck and I'm not insulated by size. And I could imagine if you're good and insulated by length. I was just talking to my buddy who I drill with on Thursday mornings for Muay Thai and kickboxing. Shout out Jordan Carbone. He was even talking about that. He was like, he's like, I'm not used to fighting people. I'm used to going people that are like much shorter than me, not anybody close to my height. And I'm like, yeah, it can definitely throw you off. And then especially if you have the bad habit, which thankfully my man Jordan doesn't, where like a lot of tall guys where they go back and their head lifts up like it's on a tetherball court or like a balloon's floating up, like a hot air balloon going up. And obviously Poatan's not that bad with his reactions, but he can get pushed back to the fence, and whatnot. He's not beyond any of those things. So Jamal Hill comes out and body kicks Poatan, and even though Poatan has shown to be more durable, you would think he's more durable, not having to cut the weight, whereas Jamal Hill is and has been injury prone, whether it's in his fights or outside of his fights. He might be one of those dudes who he performs well, but also just that if anything, it's him / his own body himself, which will betray him, kind of a sort of a deal. But yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if Hill hits Pereira with any of these things and whatnot. People getting a decent plus number on Hill, especially earlier. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Southpaws, dangerous southpaws at light heavyweight or heavyweight, go for it. There's not many big guys who are southpaws. Is kind of my theory, right? And maybe is it such a coincidence that even guys like Pereira, even their weights, it's just a really rare thing. Not a really rare thing, but it just seems to be. And if you can make hay from it, you could be really good, But yeah, I'm gonna go with Poatan. I know. Oh, Dan's going with Poatan. It's like his favorite fighter. Oh, what, Dan? You going with Poatan? You played him in round 2? Oh, what? Tell me something I don't know. It's tough, Poatan round 2 has been good to me. He / a lot of kickboxers, whether it's Anderson or even like last week. Shout out to my guy Clint, right? He scored for our prop squad over at Action Network a really good one. I actually tailed it last minute, but of course I forgot to put it. Again, my record would still suck. I still would have lost. But boy, there are so many things, like, as if I don't need any help in that department, that I just forget to put in. And I shout out to my guy Clint. I went to one of my accounts and I was like, where did this extra $600 that I wasn't expecting to see account come from? And playing, round 2, round 3 KO splits for these kickboxers, because either they're the type to need to get their reads with Cesar Almeida. MMA's kind of been weird, to be honest, but he was more of kind of a slickster guy in the kickboxing scene. So yeah, that would make sense. He would be a guy who gets his read mixed with, again, been cashed Poatan round 2 last time out, cashed it against, my own squad against Sean Strickland, cashed it there, cashed it when he first came on the scene, told you guys to play Poatan round 2. That was the only thing to play there. When people were like, why is this guy getting such high odds? Michailidis, he's more experienced, he's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, because these guys are going to spend all their time trying to take him down, and they get tired and they get knocked out. We saw that dynamic play out over and over again the other day. Of course, I couldn't get on the right side of it enough times to get into the black, but that's besides the point. The point is, there's a reason why that round 2 is there, not just going to it out of luck, not just picking Poatan because it's funny, although it kind of is, I feel like I've just been laughing my way out of the bank for the most part, He didn't cash the round 2 for us for Blachowicz, but he tried his damnedest, it was at altitude. But I think Jamal Hill is going to be way too dangerous in round 1, and perhaps Jamal Hill might feel that Poatan's way too dangerous in round 1. So I think it's more of a feeling out period on both sides. So I played Poatan round 2, 3, and 4. Those are the hot rounds. If it goes to round 5, both these guys have taken a lot of damage, and some things went wrong, arguably, for both these guys, right? Not ideal for, regardless of what side you're on at that point, as juicy as round 5 numbers are. So if you like Hill, and I wouldn't blame you because it's the opposite side of what I'm on, which means it's probably going to cash. I suggest you do the same thing. You look at rounds 2, 3, 4. I haven't looked at what it's gotten bet down to, but I'm sure it was nerfed on top of it pretty well as far as Hill by KO, right? That's his main win percentage. Although you want to be cheeky and take a sub stab. Hill, if you go back to like his 2018 career on the regionals, if you want to actually watch him shoot takedowns, he actually can chain semi-competently from singles off the cage. That being said, training with Glover, I imagine Poatan's going to get some decent single leg looks. That being said, before I move on, I do want to see Poatan, I've said this before, I want to see him use more underhooks and pushing down on the head. Right now he's more guillotine and like overhooks. I want to see him use more of those underhook urgencies. And I'm curious if his southpaw comfortability is going to be up. He relies a lot on trap setting in general. He relies on it a lot in MMA in general. But he relies on it even more so against southpaws in MMA. Whereas you actually go look at his kickboxing footage, he's super comfortable fighting southpaws. He's using the lead hands much more, jab into the head, jab into the body, throwing hooks, setting up knees, up the center. He did those kind of like the Gaethje Rosnamajunas, which come from the Trevor Whitman style, I guess, that where they check the hand play on the lead hand, and their lead leg swings up. Rashid Magomedov does it too. It's like a check left hook, except it's like a switch high kick that acts as a check left hook, and you kind of have some, you can kind of sway left to right. You can disguise it with lateral movement / backstepping lateral movement, so you can actually counter and kick backwards. And Poatan does that. He's always had surprising spin kicks when I talk about his proprioception. That's the big P word that I always use for Poatan, proprioception, when it shows him kicking the soccer ball while he launches the bow and arrow and nails it. That's like proprioception porn, pretty much. That's what he's just showing you right there. He can hit spin kicks to the blind spot of southpaws. Blind spot being the lead over the right shoulder. Blind spot being in line with what other analysts whom I respect and always reference, like Connor Rebush, the southpaw killer, right? That's the southpaw blind spot. That's the same. That's what we're both referencing there. Shout out to Heavy Hands Podcast, by the way. They gave me some shouts that I didn't really deserve the other week for Poirier. I hate that too. I feel so gross. That's why I feel gross, like doing the self-congrat. I know that's what everybody does. It's the new norm. It's business smart. Even though it is something worthy of it, you call the round, the technique, the this, the that. I always feel, for what it's worth, folks, I do feel douche chills if you ever see me, like, actually post some self-congratulatory shit. But I do, thank you for the shouts. They weren't calling me douche. I'm calling me douche. They were nice. So I'm thanking them. But yeah, and honestly, even though Hill's gotten better, he still has low-handed striker tractions. I talked about this after the Glover fight, and I was reminded of it because I haven't really had any reason to go back and watch it, right? Like, both guys have been out. Glover retired, and Hill was out indefinitely, right? But even in that fight, you see Hill. What side is he cut on? His right side. That's because I've had a read on Hill going all the way back to his fight with OSP. Now, obviously, I was wrong with that, I didn't pick, Return from the Crypt Keeper OSP post USADA. But, no, just kidding. That probably wouldn't have mattered against Hill either, to give Hill credit. But the one shot OSP does have, he has two shots, and they're both from the left side. One, of course, is that body kick, and the other is the left hook that he's knocked out guys like Menafield, who's been, doing much better these days, and other guys who I can't think of off the top of my head here. So I took a flyer on OSP back on that fight to find the southpaw killer, so to speak. Obviously, it didn't happen, and not that it, most people, be like, oh, OSP was sick or this or that, or there was like bad information floating around that I didn't know ahead of time, by the way. But even with that, I'm not going to be like overly salty, believe it or not, about that kind of stuff. It happens in this game. It's a risky knowingly take betting that these guys aren't going to be healthy. We don't know their status, right? And even if there is a rumor, you get the Valentina Shevchenko, who not only performs well, like puts out way more volume than she ever has like a career best in spite of the draw, right? So there's that too. So yeah. The leg kicks are going to be there. The injuries, the layoffs, all that stuff. Give me Poatan, Give me Poatan, I don't know. Hill was doing that thing with the Poatan chain and doing it's funny. I was listening to an interview, and his father's like, I love my son because he's so respectful. And he knows that it's just a sport, He knows that he doesn't have to go in there and show it up. And it's just about a sport and getting it done. Now, I think that despite what he's putting on, I think Hill's probably probably a good-hearted, well-meaning dude, for whatever that means to you, for whatever that's worth, right? But I thought that was funny that his dad was saying that, and you're just like, Jamal's all starting shit with Pereira. I'm like, come on, man, come on. Hey, but got to get people excited about the fight. It's going to be a good fight. I think the only reason why people were giving crap about 300. It's not about that it was a bad card. I don't like this revisionist thing now we're going to gaslight anybody who was critical about 300. It's like, listen, the criticism should go where it should, and that's the UFC brass / Dana White. And not even the production people who I always stick up for, and you'd be like, what about that god-awful fucking Google search flag 2-second job they did, right? Shout out to my guy Justin Hong when and I was like, I feel like a curmudgeon, but like he was asking me about, because I was on this podcast like the day that dropped. And I just kept pointing to it, and I was like, oh, what do you mean UFC doesn't try? Point to the thing. What do you mean UFC's just slapping together? Point to that. What do you mean? And I just kept like pointing to it for like every answer because it was like so fitting. But even that, I won't blame on the production. Again, they're putting us at this breakneck pace. Like I can't blame them for that. Just like hopefully you don't blame me for where's your content on Junkie if you were busting your ass all week and getting it in early, Dan. Because like I explained to you, it's not necessarily my fault, but at the same time, I'm not going to blame other people either because guess what? We're all so busy, and it's all because of these profit decisions that the fighters don't see, you don't see as a fan. In fact, your quality goes down as a fan. The fighters' pay goes down, which their in turn quality goes down, which in turn the entertainment quality goes down. Us media and stuff, we're not even really allowed to be media, whether you're talking about the access dynamics in play or just the sheer fact that it's just so hard to keep up with the beat, whatever your beat is, that you're drowning in this shit. And again, the UFC cares so much from their flag to the trying of the booking of their cards, and so forth, that they put their biggest card, not just of the year. These things only come around every 8 years. That's, if we round up, that's on average one a decade, right? If we're rounding, one a decade you got of these. And you couldn't taken a week off to promote, to God forbid give us a break, which by the way, they run these schedules, and most of us are so burnt out, whether we realize it or not, we would still be zombies for that week. But besides the point, we would gladly take it, right? God forbid everybody's mental health goes up, fans, your excitement goes up, and in return, the content, not only is perhaps on time, but it's even better, right? It's not as rushed, it's not cobbled together, you're not having to rush and consume it all as fans, right? And all in like 3 or 4 days. Like, Grandpa, let me gather around and let me tell you about a time when we had a month to look forward to pay-per-view card. Like, I'm not trying to do that, but God, it was beautiful. And in some respects. So, yeah, sorry, I'm fucking tangenting here. But, yeah, all right. Poatan, knockout. By round 3, played round 2, round 3, round 4. And then I also played Poatan Moneyline. Minus 125, 1.5 units, just to cover. God forbid in case it does go to decision, or he gets an early knockout. Or we've seen him get 5th round knockouts before, right? So, I don't want to be just solely lying on that. So that's about 2.5 unit exposure for me on that one. Co-main event, I'll try to pick this up faster, folks. Apologies, I'll stop after the main to answer some questions. Zhang Li minus 485, Yan Xiaonan plus 370, all China affair, baby. 我是中国人，中国第一. We're gonna have a Chinese champion at this, and it'll be a Pianyar, because I doubt the UFC is paying them very much. Chinese discount. I wish I could have subtitles on here. I'm about tax of it. Don't ask me anymore. Any more Chinese. I actually had to brush it up last weekend for a different reason. What are you up to? Communist shit? You up to communist shit? Relax, folks. Relax. Don't get triggered by the China talk. God forbid if these people knew that, communism's technically been dead in China since like 1984, but let's just let them keep the Santa Claus thing alive because it helps the world go round, but they come around the world instead of us going there to China, which would have made actually much more sense with all the money they've already invested with their PIs and wanting to break into the Chinese markets and emerging markets. But man, they needed title fights. I mean, hell, they had to make up a title, which we'll get to next. To bring that thing back out of the closet, of course, Zhang Li is probably one of the more easier picks to make on this card. Though I will say, Yan Xiaonan, going back to, because I had to create a profile about her, because I thought I had one last time, but I guess it was just a video, which I appreciate, but it's always easier when I already have the profile made, right? And with Yan Xiaonan, I'm like, okay, ground disparity, right? And spoiler alert, that is still the deciding factor for my pick for Zhang Li. However, since that Carla fight that was burnt into my head, she went over to train with Team Alpha Male, been there ever since, and has made marked improvements, right? She'll still have some really bad brain farts, the arm barring herself, the letting, like, Mackenzie Dern literally, like, crab walked to her, and she was like, and she could have gone left, she could have gone right. She, like, was thinking about going each direction each time, and then she was like, I'll just go to your guard, Mackenzie. Like, she'll still have, like, those moments. But even in that Mackenzie fight, obviously, not so much the defense, because I think it was criminal on both the judges to not give Dern at least one, if not 2 10-8s. Because that's the thing, like, it's like, yeah, she gets credit for that fight, but she probably should have lost that fight. She probably should have draw at best. Possibly lost it, right? And you guys know I'm not the biggest Dern fan, but, like, those were clear rounds, right? And Dern was striking and going for submissions in those rounds. It wasn't just holding position. There was passing, dominant positions. It wasn't hard strikes, not the kind of hard strikes that Zhang Li has shown from those same exact positions, which is why I'm going to pick her here to get it done inside the distance, spoiler alert. But, like, Yan Xiaonan, she'll give her back, and she'll, like, take a beat. You can tell she's still thinking about it. There's a beat between everything, which was another reason why I felt it was very incriminating, and not just the judges for not giving the 10-8s, but to Dern for not making it more obvious to the judges, not that maybe she necessarily should have for the scores, but more speaking to where her kind of skills should be, right? On paper, how they're touted, and even people like me who ignore all that BS and just look at what's there. Like, I was very surprised, Now, granted, she gets deep on some things like the omoplata, and, Yan Xiaonan has flexible joints, thankfully, because she arm bars herself every once in a while too, right? But just kidding. But she has shown improvements there. But I in my breakdown, I characterize it more as survival than defense. Good survival rather than defense. But in the wrestling, she does show a lot of improvements. Not just underhook, overhook awareness, good sprawls. But what I was really impressed with was her head position. She really was steering with her head. You'll see wrestlers on this card like Justin Gaethje, or not necessarily a wrestler, but Figueiredo loves doing this with the head position in the clinch and steering his opponent, especially at flyweight where he really, would impose his size. Really solid head position, both defensively and offensively. More specifically, a defense that parlays to offense with how they use it to circle. It's really nice. So she's clearly working with wrestlers, which makes sense. Team alpha male, a lot of MMA wrestlers, ex-retired MMA fighters, ex-retired wrestlers out there. So she's doing her work there. That being said, she still kicks a decent amount, and I think those will get her in trouble. I think the punches will be pluses because outside of the wrestling, she's also working on boxing. I mean, it makes sense, right? You're going from China to America, wrestling and boxing. Anybody not from China to America, anybody going from anywhere to America, unless maybe you're coming from Russia or, certain countries like that, right? You're going to have some good Soviet-style boxing. You're going to have access to some good wrestling. But for a lot of countries, right, like that's a general upgrade you want to look for, right? Like, I went to Thailand. I mainly did Muay Thai. Surprise, surprise, right? Bangtan Muay Thai is a great gym, and it's really well-rounded. It's only getting better. All that stuff, one of the best gyms I've ever been to. All that stuff, yes, yes, yes. But you ask me what they're best at, what they offer. Oh, yeah, the Muay Thais definitely stand out. Surprise, surprise, right? Zhang-Yan's boxing has gotten better, particularly off the counter. She's really accurate with her left hook and right hand returns. Those are going to be really super live. We've seen Zhang Wei Li hook before, and she's gotten some of the better of those. The Rose in the rematch, although it didn't matter because she didn't end up getting it, though arguably winning that rematch, right? But we also saw it kind of go both ways against Young Jacek. So that could be dangerous because Zhang-Yan also has power not to sleep on. And most of it's done early. Zhang Wei Li, if she's going to get hurt, it's going to be early. We've also seen Zhang Wei Li get definitively beat by Rose with that same kick that Yan Zhao-Nan throws. But like I was kind of getting to beforehand, not just the takedowns, and I still see the wrestling superiority being enough to get things done even with Yan's improvements. But you add in the fact that Yan again kicks a lot, and Zhang Wei Li is probably one of the best kick counterers in MMA right now. At least in the octagon, active. I don't know how you want to dice it out. I'm not saying the best, but give me a decent stable of good kick counterers, and I will confidently throw Zhang Wei Li and whoever's judging and parsing through. I think she'll make the cut for most people. She's got really good kick counters, really improved, especially since that Rose defeat, right? Both leg kicks, body kicks, and even head kicks, even though she'll kind of do those risky undercatches. It's a lot of which is definitely much more Thai style. But yeah, because she can maybe get caught early, I took is snoring or farting? I can't tell. Dog's over here. I took a little bit, just a quarter unit. I think even that much, yeah. Plus 4,000 for round. Yeah, quarter unit plus 4,000 round 1 KO Yan, and then what I did play was Zhang inside the distance minus 115 at 2 units. That's all I did. I just laid it, I was thinking about parlaying, but parlaying's not been great. I've been trying to adjust my style. I went a little bit heavier, and I've got some decent money line plays. I'm trying not to get too cute, as they say. Trying to invest more into chalkier stuff or not as sexy stuff. So we'll see how that pays off. I've been doing a bunch of different combinations, folks, trying to learn from my lessons. But it's a tough game to play. Still winless since the first card of the year, if I didn't make that clear in the beginning. So we'll see. But that's what I got. Wei Li, ITD, and then a little flyer as a potential hedge. Zhang, KO, round 1. All right, next fight. The hardest one of the card for me to pick. I went back and forth. And I don't want to say because I want to spoil the rest. Because you guys know me too much. You probably already can predict where I'm going on some of these fights. And unfortunately, maybe that's another reason I don't hipster Dan it as much, where I hipster myself. But I'm honestly just not going my heart. I'm going with what I see, and if I don't, I come clean on those. But this one, Justin Gaethje minus 162, Max Holloway plus 136. I waffle back and forth so much where like this is the only time I might have done this where now that I waffle, like I inputted it, I saved it, I put it to my record where I save it online on my site, and then I take that and then I put it over into my email form where I mail the article. And by the time I got to the last step where I copied and pasted it into the window of my email, I went ahead and like deleted like the last 3 paragraphs and rewrote it and changed my pick. Now the first pick is the right one, not just because I changed it, because the way I bet that is if this outcome happens, it's like the one way I essentially lose in this fight, right? We have you surrounded. Come out with your hands up, you know. And when I have the area surrounded, you guys know how it is. They still fucking get away somehow. So pay attention. The first pick is going to be the right one. So the first pick that I deleted was Justin Gaethje by decision. Now, part of me thought, I am going contrarian Dan, you know. I'm picking against Holloway. I'm picking like the least likely thing. If anybody, you know, maybe is more of a edge laid on paper, you think it'd be a guy like Holloway, a builder, a volume guy, a guy who's been 5 rounds more and more successfully, even though he's got a lot of 5-round losses on there as well, right? Thanks to Alexander Volkanovski at least. But you know what I'm saying. But the more I looked at him, like, is that your bias that you're picking a decision because you don't want to be sad and see Max get stopped? Well, I don't know how sad I can be to not see Max get stopped because I bet Gaethje round 3 KO plus 1100, round 4 KO plus 1500 at .33 use each, Scottie Pippins. And then because of the way I bankroll management, I only went a Michael Jordan 0.23 units for round 5 KO for Gaethje plus 2200 because leg kicks, he could be the first one to test the vaunted chin and get him knocked out. Even though depending on corners to stop things in MMA is tough, but you know, a corner or a doctor stoppage is what usually it takes for this tough fighters like that, the tough Hawaiians, right? That's how BJ first started, you know, going out before he stayed too long, right? You kind of see that happen. So if that goes that trend like people were thinking, that's kind of my insurance there. So that's one unit, but I ended up doing about, what is it? Not 2.5 like the main event. Not 2.25 like the co-main event overall exposure, but pretty close, you know. We're pretty close, right around the neighborhood of 2 units to exposure. Actually, we're over 2 units to exposure. What am I talking about? The fuck am I talking about? Yeah, we're more closer to Poetan, 2.5 units, the main event. I lied. Because I also played, and I was going to do this regardless. I was just going to play Max Holloway round 3 plus 2,800, round 4 plus 3,300, round 5 plus 4,000, 0.17 U each. Those numbers, we don't have to take it all the way up to Scottie Pippen, right? Let's get some management. We're doling out a lot. I'm probably doling out my almost double my average from what I normally do. Not really, but like half that. For this card, we're going big like many people are. It's our excuse anyways. Fuck it. I'm already on my last leg, so let's just get ourselves deeper in the hole. But yeah, and then I was gonna do that and then pick Gaethje, right? But I'm like, and I did this down on the card later, not to a serious extent, where I pick one way but I play the other. And even though that's perfectly fine and justifiable, right, in MMA gambling and so on and so forth, right? Picks are different from bets. Picks, analysis, and bets are all 3 different things. In fact, I didn't want to cop that out, so when I rewrote it, I rewrote what I saw because essentially you can make cases each way. I mean, the reason why I was initially leaning Gaethje and was even now, despite my official pick and plays, and kind of surprised the line's not wider in favor of Gaethje is because, yeah, the leg kicks and counters have been troubles for Max's style, right? Gaethje has gotten much better at staying underneath himself, staying composed in the fire, beat Dustin Poirier. Not that MMA math is anything, but it is an interesting love triangle and stylistic dynamic triangle in the sense that, you know, you go back to my Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier breakdown. The striking section is called The Builder, which obviously we know. That's one of the more archetypes and things that I put into the space, I guess. So you guys know who I mean by that one. But the demolisher was Dustin Poirier. And even though I picked Max Holloway, boy, was that dynamic right, because I said, it's going to be between Max's volume or Dustin's ability to counter and leave, the builder without any, building materials on the job site, right? And that's what he did. Max Holloway would get one piece of wood together, 2, let's connect it with 3, and then here comes the check hook. And now you get to fucking start all over again. 1, 2, and he knocks down, the wave comes in and wipes out the sandcastle, and you're just like, and that's what we saw over and get some more momentum. Oh, I got to 4, 5. Oh, let's frame this piece. Quick. Bring me that piece. Quick. Before he comes back. Oh, I got to start over again. We saw that dynamic play. And since then, Gaethje has just been honing his style to be that dynamic, right? So, yeah, the one way is you make the argument for that. And the one way it can look is like kind of like a version with hopefully not as shot a fighter on the other end, but similar dynamic actually to Tony Ferguson and Gaethje we saw, right? Whereas when I was refreshing myself, it actually took me going to the Southpaw report because I know I'm always like, Max is going to bring out Southpaw. I think he's going to go Southpaw this time. Like, as much as I hate, and shout out to Ben and the comment under Dare Nugent or something. I don't know. They seem like cool people on Twitter. Ben is obviously, but the other person seems cool too. But they're talking about how, like, the difference of, like, between analysis and gambling. Ben was saying some wise words that I need to remember more, especially when I'm on massive fucking shit-eating streaks like this. But Dare was like, yeah, I saw someone on a Reddit post, like, bragging about picking so-and-so to win, which, fair enough, that's a pretty good pick. But when you actually went to read their reasoning, it was so terrible. And they were so proud of it. And I wanted to comment. I was like, that is like literally 3/4, and that's a fair, I guess it's probably closer to 85%. That's literally 3/4 of the winners in MMA gambling. Just fucking terrible winners. Got lucky, not realizing that it was luck. They don't even realize that it's luck. Forget like actually realizing you're wrong. Like, who likes to realize, or who likes to even like admit they're wrong, especially when they don't have to. Much less when they have to or when they should. People don't do it, right? Much less allowed, much less to themselves. Why would people humbly win anything? But I was like, yep, that is essentially it. But hey, I'm guilty of that too, right? I've been guilty of it too. And you could argue kind of guilty of that with Max Holloway fights. I mean, the dynamic's kind of clear. So if you do get his fights right, and from a broad perspective, I guess it's hard not to get wrong. But from a specific perspective, even when he's won, I've been so wrong. And one of the running jokes for longtime podcast listeners is, oh, he's gonna bring me back to the southpaw stance, right? And I finally gave up saying that, and then sure enough, he comes out against Arnold Allen, the last match I thought he would do it against, right? Against another southpaw, like that's ballsy, right? Like, you better be damn. That just shows how good Holloway is. Like, you better be damn good to outstyle, a southpaw in their own stance, and it's a stance you don't, It's not even your primary stance. You barely use it. You barely used it your last few fights, stretch of fights. And he does it, right? Doesn't really do it for Zombie. And it's weird. Like, some of those fights, it's like, obviously he looks, just a step behind and just, like a dog, getting ready to, in his last legs of service, going to get put out of his misery in that third Volkanovski fight. But that's Alexander Volkanovski, right? And then, even though, watching it live was impressive and the southpaw dynamic was impressive against Allen, when I'm rewatching it with a finer eye, I'm like, wow, I don't know, is he I know he's slowing down and fighting at a slower pace, but is he getting slower as well? Which makes sense. Holloway is getting older. Well, I don't know, is Allen just fast? Allen is fast. And I'm like struggling with that, right? And then I go against Chan Sung Jung, he's looking better just on the walkout. He doesn't look as gaunt and as sucked in, right? And I remember pictures, he actually looked extra gaunt and sucked in leading up to that fight, and people were worried, right? Maybe that's just age, not scarcity, but age fear, that we have in this space for the gambling side of it. The biggest ages in the world, right? But he looks healthy, and then, sure enough, in the fight, he's looking pretty good, even though there's some close calls. But again, is it like, oh, is he looking good when he's looking good because it's Chan Sung Jung? But if that's the case, then he shouldn't have been getting hit or as close to getting hit as he was some of the times. And that was kind of worrisome, right? However, he was talking about wanting to get a KO, and that was programmed in his head. He tried to get the fake walk off, not the fake walk off. I mean, could have been a legitimate one, right? Before he gets the stoppage, right, in a round previous. So it was clearly on his mind. And, it's been like a critique even when he was doing well. Like, oh, well, he doesn't have the one-punch power, And Mac's been working on his strength and conditioning, And as far as his striking goes, I noticed, I don't know if Hawaii Elite MMA turned into Legacy Muay Thai. That's just what he's repping. But since I've been seeing that around and whatnot, as far as his style goes, Max has been really much more. He'll still throw teeps and he still has his lifting knees. But he's been much more when he'll throw some hard knees in there, which is nice, and that's going to serve him really well, right? Because when I was watching Gaethje versus Fiziev, I'm like, God damn, knees were there all day, and sure enough, I've heard mixed reviews on American Top Team as far as a game plan perspective, but they knew. They came in knowing. They saw the same tape, and they're like, oh yeah, knees, throw knee. And Dustin's not even like the biggest knee guy. And they're like, yep, make sure a knee, or follow with a knee, cross high kick, or cross knee, because he keeps dipping. He's going to dip into one of those, right? So it's like they saw it. And Max's camp is really good game planners. They saw it. They had something really specific when I rewatched the Allen fight that they were working. Like, it reminded me of that. I'm like, oh yeah, say what you will, we could speculate all day on exactly where Max is at as in his career, but he, or what the title of what gym is, but he still has like the main guys, the Ryan Lazaruses and the, I forget the striking coach is escaping me. I feel really bad now because that's one of the main guys I'm talking about. He's got really good strategists where they study and break it down. And even though Gaethje, obviously, as I broke down, is still a tough style matchup for Max on paper here, it's not like he's the most, wide variety guy in the world they have to game plan for, right? And when I went back with what I was saying earlier about Gaethje's Southpaw report, is that what I came to my summation in that Southpaw report is that regardless of stance, fighters who can work the body, counter, and offer timing change-ups is what messes with Gaethje the most. Remember the vision discrepancies I talked about with him and Oliveira? So fighters that can really offer those quick timing change-ups in open space really mess him up, Poirier with both of them, even though mixed results there as far as the fights go, but he's dropped and hurt both of them with check hooks and, quick change-ups and pinpoint stuff like that. And when, and they can do it back to other people or to each other like we saw Bronx do against Gaethje and vice versa, right? But yeah, those timing change-ups and stuff. So Max may not hit the hardest, but those crisp timing change-ups, right? And one of the combos that he really has been doing really well, it's kind of like a variation of the Dillashaw where you're, starting, you're jabbing, and then you throw a right, you roll under a heavy hook, which Gaethje will throw heavy hooks, right? And then that left hand is right there, and he pinpoints him. And a lot of times he would crowd his work, and he was still just as accurate with it. And this is the older, more advanced, wishy-washy, trying to speculate, am I discounting the good because of this, or is it, am I giving too much credit because of this? I'm talking about even in those recent relevant performances I'm talking about, right? And throwing body kicks, not just going to the body against Gaethje, which is good, and he's not going to get tired like Fiziev and need his pockets to recoup like Fiziev did, right? So long as Max Holloway's durability is holding up and his legs aren't taking too much damage, I imagine he's going to be still moving, striking, and kicking. And he's been, like I said, sitting into his kicks much more. And that works good for both the body, but could also set up one of those like head kick, those brutal head kick knee knockouts like Drew McFedery's, Josh Koscheck, Aljamain and Sterling, Marlon Moraes, right? Those ones where they duck into the head kick and hit the knee, and it's just a brutal, instantly puts him out, right? So there's definitely that too. And like I said before, it's those kicks and those counters, and tying that in with that quick kind of Dillashaw combination, shifting combination that Max throws, and his accuracy that I was impressed with. The same went for when he was on the back foot with his counters. You saw at the very end of the Allen fight, I was a little worried because I'm like, he's not really bringing in the dog. Now again, his team they were specifically doing something that they knew was boring, and they knew like just keep rinse, washing, and repeating it. So I get that. But in that fifth round, when Allen pours it on, it's like impressive on Allen, and you're like, oh shit, right, for Max, right? Even in hindsight, just trying to grade him and see how he's doing. But by the end of the round, like Max does toward a lot of rounds, even rounds where he's doing really bad or takes a lot of damage in, Surprisingly enough, Max is doing better. And you see it in that fight, too. He's doing a lot of, especially from when he'll go back to orthodox, even though he's fighting a lot from southpaw, like how he knocked out Zhang. He hits and drops Allen with similar shots, both the left hook and right hand. It's almost like he found his like Adesanya skinny guy power, as far as those check hook right hands, like how Adesanya knocked out both Rob Whittaker the first time and Paulo Costa. It's like Max is like finding that groove, you know what I'm saying? And those could absolutely put Gaethje out. Now, thankfully for Gaethje, he doesn't fight like he used to, because if it was old Gaethje, I'd look at those counters all day and I'd feel a little better about backing Max in this spot than I do now, right? But it's going to be hard to draw that out of old Gaethje. That being said, those will still come in handy for pocket encounters, right? For those quick pocket exchanges for when he does sit down and decide, which will be dangerous as hell to hook with Gaethje. But that being said, if anybody is, even though we're like, is the chin going to go? The fact is, it's one of the most durable chins in MMA today and, maybe of all time, these Hawaiian chins, right? So that's essentially, I guess, what I'm banking on, right? Anybody playing those round flyers essentially are banking on for the Max Holloway win here. He's looking much better. Of course, everybody knows the difference between the Poirier fight as far as his prep. You could see that. That does help as well, Shout out to my guy, Rob DeMello over there at KHON. He did an early preview. He messaged me. He's like, dude, Max is looking fucking good, bro, and his shape. And this was before, like, a lot of, like, the pictures were coming out. And I was like, oh, wow. And then once I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, you wouldn't lie. He definitely looks good. So I played Max 1.11, almost 11-11, make a wish. To kind of cover in case, he wins, let's say, by decision or in rounds 1 or 2, right? So I don't, come away with nothing, just with the rounds 3 and 4 sprinkles, right? So it gives me coverage there. Honestly, and again, like I said, you like Gaethje, played the same side. I actually went both sides, right, on that. And then I also even put Holloway by split decision plus 800. I put that in there. If you like either fighter by decision, by the way, if you're not emptying out your bankroll and are overexposed in this fight, if you like the late rounds, you could even just sprinkle on both and then not touch the fight and, hopefully someone finish each other in later rounds, which was my original plan. But I wanted some action on the decision as well, because if you think it's going to go to decision, and no matter who you like, you just put a little bit on each to win by split decision. You can get them both at plus 7 to 800 in that neighborhood. And again, like Holloway's, it's going to take a lot of damage. It's going to be volume versus power, right? Judges, even in the Vegas top level judges, air quotes, don't agree with each other, right? Counter striking versus volume striking. I have all these different dynamics at play that judges typically have trouble agreeing with. Plus, what's ultimately going to be a chaotic and maybe competitive close fight. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at like Gaethje's last fight, should have been a split decision, and people, what do you mean should have been split? I hate when people like gas like that, like that's some like smart point. It's like, listen, I know some people say it stupidly, and some people are really stupid and say it stupidly, but at the same time, I think we know what they mean. Yeah, think you know what I mean. This should have been a split. I should say I was surprised it wasn't a split. It should have been a win for Fiziev, actually. Fiziev won the first 2 rounds, and not even a draw. I don't know how Paul Sutherland got the 10-8 when Fiziev rocks Gaethje multiple times in the first 2 minutes of the fight. In fact, Fiziev is clearly winning without Gaethje barely getting on the scoreboard for the first minute and a half. Then Gaethje starts slowly trickling in on the scoreboard, but you can honestly go to 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 20 seconds, literally almost half the round, if you've got your proverbial racehorses, right? Like Holloway's taking little small steps, Gaethje a little bigger step, right? Because he's got the big shots. Holloway small steps. Gaethje a bigger. Even if you're doing that thing, which you should be doing, or some variation of that, I think it's the strongest analogy, even though I'm referencing a fucking Carney game. That's just the sport, folks. I don't think Gaethje catches up to Holloway till the halfway point of the round. Now, I do have Gaethje eventually overtaking Fiziev in round 3, but not by 10-8. So, so again, to that point, they're all over the place with these guys. So, bet the splits, bet the late rounds. That's where the money's at. That's where my money's at. About 2.5 units exposed. All right, let's go faster. Arman Tsarukyan minus 225. Charles do Bronx Oliveira plus 185. Um, yeah, I know this is a tough one. Like, I think Tsarukyan should be favored, even though the odds makers actually opened this pretty much completely opposite. At least Oliveira's side of it. They opened at what, minus 160, minus 165 ish, and now you're seeing them in that neighborhood with a plus sign instead. So the line completely flipped. If you want to play Oliveira, you don't owe an explanation to anybody because he went from a favorite to a dog. He is the more proven product. He is due Bronx. He has multiple ways to win, especially in a 3-rounder. Even though you could still argue he has the advantage later this goes. Tsarukyan just nonstop. You guys know I've been high on him since he came in, even though I picked Makhachev, obviously. So this guy's going to be special. Everyone just loading up on inside the distance just because it's a heavy chalk Dagestani. You might be disappointed if you're playing the inside the distance, assuming big chalk equals inside the distance. And, sure enough, Tsarukyan has aged his supporters, fairly well. Obviously, he should have won the fight against Garbrandt. That was one of the worst decisions. Guess which side I was on that one too, right? Although I will say I did pick Garbrandt to beat Fiziev, and that was one of the 3 times I referenced earlier where I was on the right side of the injury. I lost my ass off on that card still, so hey. But yeah, so this one, I was in the middle of watching some footage on, and then I stopped it halfway through because I was like looking at takedowns, and I'm like, okay, I don't see the dedicated pattern like Makhachev has, where he's always sagging his head to the right. And if you look at the Charles Oliveira front choke threats thing I posted, thank you all for sharing those. You'll look at religiously, like not 90%, not 99%, 100% of the time, Charles is feeding to his left. So I'm usually looking where guys are putting their heads on shots. And Tsarukyan he puts his head on both sides, so it's kind of negligent. And he's really good too. Is he as good as Makhachev? Not by resume or on paper, but he's pretty damn close, right, folks? He's getting there. We'll see where he goes. I actually have come off that train. I've actually like Makhachev more and more as things go on here. But yeah, I mean, it didn't matter for Makhachev, right? You could say, Oliveira didn't look himself. I obviously don't disagree with you, but still, just because the guy puts his head on a certain side, right? However, it was the left-sided strikes that reminded me, because that was the reason why I took a flyer on Benny Dariush. Of course, old Benny Dariush's durability came back to haunt him, and me being a sucker for a southpaw vet came to haunt me as it so normally does, right? Perhaps I'm walking into a similar trap here, spoiler alert. But his left-sided strikes, now, Bronx has been better with his kicks and his knees, and he does have some surprising left-side sensibilities. However, he doesn't really throw a lot of left high kicks, but his left hook, kind of like the one Joaquim Silva rocked Arman Tsarukyan with in round 2, I believe it is, right? That's been his most improved punch, like his most improved strike. I know you guys got the head kick highlight reel, but even before he fought Michael Chandler, like 3 or 4 or 5 fights before that, I remember noting that his left hook's really, really, his technique there has really stepped up. I think like all the way back to like the Timur fight, David Timur fight-ish. But yeah, so I think that's really going to be live, and even though a ground and pound finish for Tsarukyan wouldn't surprise me, nor would a Justice Depressing, albeit in a different way, decision wouldn't surprise me. I'm not surprised that he's favored. I don't even disagree that he's favored, but you're going to give me plus money on Charles Oliveira. The champion has a name. I know he's ready to drop off a cliff, right? He's due, but he's also he is the classic Brazilian warhorse, more proven than the Luques of the world. He's in the RDA territory now. RDA's been a letdown for me and in general in some spots, right? So that doesn't mean he's impervious to a loss here, but he is that guy, right? He is that fucking guy. So I don't know. I can't help but be seeing that left hook leading to a club and sub. And I got Charles Oliveira here. I went 1.5 units again, I went 1.5 on Poatan. I didn't go 1.5 on Holloway, again, with the exposure there, but I'm going to go 1.5 on Bronx at plus 175. And I threw Bronx at plus 275 inside the distance in my round robin. Zhang inside the round 2 plus 550 is also in there with Holloway split. I'll give you guys the next two as we get to them, okay? Let me knock out this last fight. We'll get to you guys. Bo Nickal minus 2,100. Gaethje-Brundage plus 1,100. Gaethje-Brundage has an awesome Mariah Carey walkout song. Awesome team, but that's about it. It's 1-1 against UFC level lefties. Not that it matters. Because he looks to just strike and shoot. He looks really uncomfortable. And he's not going to have the shooting option. And if he's extra uncomfortable on the feet against southpaws than he is against orthodox fighters, that'll probably be bad news against a guy who can knock him out on the feet as well. I think it'll probably be ground and pound. I think Brundage will turtle, but not really give a sub, and Bo Nickal will pound him out. I think you can get plus money on that. That is one angle to turn up minus 2,100 into somewhat plus money, but I just don't have a taste for this fight. I hate the placement on it, and it's kind of killed my taste for it. Yeah, you get like plus 150 or something. If I'm up, but I mean, we'll see. I do have plays throughout this bottom card, but I don't know if they're the biggest plays where I feel like throwing it right back away on a Bo Nickal. Choose, Parker! Decision prop. All right. Time 106, not too bad. All right, let's look at the chat. We'll catch up a little bit on the chat here. Gotta focus me. Give me a pen. Here. Guess it's not around. Oh, here it is. 106 break. All right, what's up, chat? I'm gonna also, maybe retweet this. Here, do this. Hey, look, it's playing. Wow, look at that. What do you know? Wish I could watch live, but putting this one on at work. Oh, thanks, Miguel. You're the man, Miguel. I'm gonna be listening to you, Miguel, on Speaking of Heavy Hands podcast. Miguel Class, one of the not just threaders. He's an analyst, folks. This guy's awesome. Shouts to Miguel. Thank you for that, buddy. Just giving me a shout. We got Michael Panza. What's up, Dan? Good to see you on the show back. Thank you, Michael Panza. Good to see you. We got Ghost. Yeah, _MMA is the new handle. Yep, I got that one read off. Jimmy Kudo. That's awesome to hear that you're listening to other podcasts and being a fan. Synchro Wing. I'm so glad to see you back. Good to see you, Synchro Wing. Thank you. Rios is in Truesdale, Thailand. Sounds amazing. It was absolutely amazing. If you guys want to lurk my IG, speaking _MMAs, right? Dan _Tom _MMA on Instagram. I'm much more active on that these days. And I almost have everything. There's still one more highlight that needs to be posted, which I'm hoping. Speaking of Poatan, hopefully there's your boy getting some body jabs and inside slip crosses over some motherfuckers. And getting my ass kicked as well, too. It's fun. Yo's fan, check out Dan's Southpaw report. I really like that you pointed out Alex's habit of eating body kicks on the open side. Yep, thank you for that. That definitely was the common thread there, Ghost. Cheyenne, Wyoming. So glad you're back. Thank you, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Hope it's good over there. James Kendrick. Thoughts on Miguel Class vid about Jamal Hill footwork? Oh, that was hilarious. I saw that going around. Yeah, that was just hilarious. I was just there for the comments, man. Like I just said, Miguel is the man. Chronic Combat Conversation. It's Dan Tom. PYM for the win. I love you guys, man. You guys always make me laugh on your podcasts. Definitely a podcast I always shop for a reason. Real Citizen Truesdale. Cheers. Love frosted beverages. Frosted cherry Coke was such a treat when I was a kid, right? Yeah, cherry Coke was like, oh man, like, dude, like when I grew up very privileged, okay? I was not like have like a shacker, right? I'm making it sound that way. It was, I didn't have fresh food in my pantry. I didn't have sodas or snacks. I didn't have extra 75 cents to buy cherry cola on the cafeteria during junior high, which was true. But if I did have the extra 75 cents, I felt like a rich man, And then like the wide mouth Mountain Dew just came out, and I wasn't even like a big Mountain Dew fan or anything, but I was like, ooh, I feel like rich. This is like high class. I know it's like super TPT trailer park trash, but like, listen, I was deprived of a lot of like these basic American things, I was like, McDonald's, what? You guys must be rich. Jimmy Kudo, can the body jab that Pereira uses in close stance matchup be as useful against southpaw? Yeah, it can actually. You don't see him use it again much in MMA, but he does it in kickboxing. And as a southpaw myself, who was just working it in today's drills, we're actually doing body jab drills as well. It just, it's a little bit of different angle where you can kind of get checked from an up jab or a check hook if you're not careful. So your head movement and your where you go can kind of change. You want to change level. Not that you want to go overly forward. Not that you want to go overly to the side, right? In general. But you'll see whether it's Junior Dos Santos doing it out of a shifting stance. He'll kind of shift and step back and do it. Or Poatan, where he's usually doing it orthodox to orthodox, right? Because he's using it to set up his left hook. And that gets your head to the air quote weak side. You could still eat a switch kick, right? Which is why when they face southpaws and you're used to doing that, you run into trouble, like I always say. But yeah, it can still work for the southpaw. You want to really make sure you should always be wanting to keep your weight centered again and not be leaning too far forward. But you really want to be dropping your weight down and not too far forward. You're going to naturally go forward with your step and dip and your level change, but not too far forward, not too far to the side where you're leaning into something on the power side. That's not going to be a fair trade-off. Body kick or a head kick for a step and body jab. You don't really want that trade-off on the open side. And that's just from my novice opinions. People can give better answers than that. Snake Eyes SG, what up, homie? First time viewer. Appreciate you, Snake Eyes. Hopefully not boring you or getting too off track. I'll be pushing on with a breakdown shortly enough. Luke Gallons, welcome back, Dan. Hoping for a 5-hour show in honor of the return. I could do it even though I'm starving and I'm going to eat my ass off and I've got a lot of work to do after this. I would love to do it. But I feel like I talk too damn much, even though you guys probably miss me. There's a lot to talk about. But there's lots to talk about on the card, so let's just keep the focus there. We'll see what we have left over. Let's fucking go. Welcome back, Pascal R. What is up? James Kendrick. How big of an advantage is Wei Li's right low kick against Yan Xiaonan's jab? It could be an advantage, but honestly, I feel like Wei Li's going to be careful striking with Yan Xiaonan, especially early. She's going to be much more competitive than people give her credit, or perhaps that the line is indicating. Rios and Truesdale, is the Wei Li line too wide? But like what I was just saying, I don't disagree with it, but for women's MMA, and for Jan's commensurate skills and her potential improvements in this year off. I mean, I know she's 34, but women's MMA, both the game in general as its progression, the meta, to the athletes themselves, because it's newer, the age rules aren't so hard and fast, right? They're still in their Randy Couture era where, like, we can get older competitors still doing well. Maybe we'll talk about that in the home fight. We'll see. Who knows? But yeah, definitely a little wide there. Wei Li by finish is a good shout. Thank you, Synchro Wing. John Atlas, did you hear Heavy Hands intro this week? No, I saw Phil McKenzie tweet though, so I imagine it's something new metalish. Which, I have definitely gotten experimental, not always for the better on this show, so makes me a little self-conscious with some of my music choices, but I'm sure Heavy Hands will be freaking hilarious and is worth a listen always, regardless what intro music they use. Jimmy Kudo, we have the plus 380 line. Make bettors bet on Yan Xiaonan. Have they forgotten Wei Li is really good? Yeah, no, I mean, she is really good. And, that's the thing. It's like, you could make the argument that it's too wide, but at the same time, when you see how much wider, air quotes, Ronda Rousey odds we just hand out in the sport, like, you look at Kayla Harrison, right? Look how wide of a favorite, she is. And it's like, does she deserve that? She's practically the same odds. Like, she's much less proven, right? And she's going against somebody who's, much more experienced in MMA, out of MMA, has actually won titles in and out of MMA. Say what you will about Holm or those titles, but these are truths, right? So it's a two-way street. It's a very tricky two-way street to that point. Fanyo, what is up, Fanyo? Fight Site Full Preview Podcast on my queue right now as we speak. Thank you, Fanyo, for the amazing thumbnail. Make sure to give this video, if not for me, for my guy Fanyo, because he's always just supporting for that's like behind the scenes. Just being a good dude in real life, through his work or outside of it. He's just a good dude. So shout out to my guy Fanyo on the Fight Site. Check out the Fight Site podcast feed, where you can check out Fanyo's early prelims preview, the full card preview, as well as their I don't know, Silas hasn't done a boxing show, but or Christian and Silas. I mean, Christian and Silas did the MMA podcast, but they haven't had a boxing show. Who does their boxing show now? I'm getting confused. Sorry. But shout out to Christian and Silas. I believe Martin is the last name. They do an excellent job as well. Speaking of people, dude, excellent. Raimundo, my man, Raimundo, MMA Junkie crew in the house. Junkie Radio crew in that. Man, I wish we had a junkie gathering. I'd have an excuse to like wear the suit tomorrow. I know my man Raimundo. I know he can look sharp too. Maybe we go hit the town. Ben Davis, where are you at, Ben? You in town? You suited up and booted up? Ben in the house. Shout out to my guy Ben. Oh, I just missed Ben in Thailand too. Not so much inspiring me to travel, but minus the turtleneck, inspiring this fit kind of. No, but I also got to get photos of me in my suits because my guy Ben inspired me, man. Really, just give this another push. Try to call some shows here, do some commentary. So shout out to my guy Ben, living the dream, looking good. I love Ben, man. He's a good dude. We got Ben Davis from 2 accounts. Woo, getting double Ben love. What is up with that? I'm getting some likes on the chat. What is going on? It's a lot of people watching right now. This makes me a little nervous. Wow. Stefan Summer, great to see you back in the game. Dan, big up. Thank you so much. Look at this. Look at this. As I say this, Dan is wearing the Bane outfit, not gonna lie. Only for the pay-per-views, and I can't be like Roper. There's only 2 people. Roper from Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon and Ben Davis as far as turtlenecks go. Except no substitutes in your life, folks. I got to get on with this breakdown. I'll get to the rest of you guys later. That was awesome. All right, back to the prelims now. I don't want to get too far off. We got Alexander-Rakic minus 115, Yuri Prochazka minus 105. So this is a tough one. Process versus non-process, right? I mean, you've got clean jabs, good head kick setups, really serviceable takedowns for both his size and the division, right? He actually can play on top. Really nice guy. I think he follows me, so hopefully he's not watching this and seeing where my pick is going, because it's not a confident pick, to be honest. But I just feel like either Process is going to win the day, which is where I usually go. You guys know me. Or Chaos is going to shake Process out of its boots and throw it off. And not only does Prochazka have a good chance about doing that to most people on the planet, with his size, athleticism, and wackiness, so to speak, you got another guy coming off a big injury layoff, right? And I don't really like the guys coming off of long injury layoffs, nor maybe do I like the guys coming off quickly off of knockout loss returns, right? Which we'll talk about. But in this case, this is more the injury side of things. Prochazka making his return, but not too close from a KO. He I believe he's just hitting that 6-month mark, and he had, it was a flash. That being said, it's not like he can't be stopped here. It's definitely a pathway for Rakic, as well as like a semi-weird decision, which is for sure on the table, here. But I'm actually going to go with Yuri Prochazka, which would suck for Rakic, man. I like Rakic. He needs some confidence bounce back, but I think this is Yuri Prochazka is a hard guy to bounce back against. And I think his weird, wacky angle punches are going to have some play. You're going to have the audience, which will only fuel Prochazka's craziness and add to the chaos that Alexander Rakic will have to console, whether within inside himself or definitely within that octagon. So I'm leaning toward Prochazka, probably by an early KO, which I'm never confident on those picks. So maybe that's good for Rakic if you're listening. Maybe I just gave you the old reverse jinx, because if you've been following my picks, you'll know that if you're on the right side, if you're on the wrong side of me, or if you're on the opposite side of me, you're on the right side of me. That's what I mean. I'm running on fumes, folks. I'm going to push through here. Aljamain Sterling minus 175. Calvin Kattar plus 145. So I want to brush up on a couple touch spots on footage for this one, because he's faced good guys, good wrestlers like Emmett, Magomed Sharapov, who talented MMA grapplers, from the submission to the wrestling side of it. But for me, as far as like stylistic things for what we think that Aljo's going to do, or what you think he needs to do, I feel like you almost have to go back to his Chris Fishgold fight. Fucking Chris Fishgold. Back when Calvin Kattar fought that, as far as an aggressive, smaller grappler wants to get on his hips. I know Sterling is training over in my backyard, so maybe Dan's going to have the old Extreme Couture bias. I was wearing the shirt earlier until I switched into the Bane fit. Bane Jr. fit, even though I'm senior because I'm fucking old as shit over here. I'm washed. I would definitely be the underdog debate. I'm the old man. I think that I don't know if Kattar is quite old enough, I think that even though he's been fighting forever, I mean, the dude's got Strikeforce fights on his record, which I think you got to go all the way back to that Strikeforce Challenger Series to find that lone and last submission loss. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have it right in front of me. There's a lot that I'm juggling in my Rain Man-like head right now. Forgive me, folks. But he is a large featherweight. You know me, I'm not like, oh, you see the size of him on the scale or anything like that, and I'm not hating on that because I definitely get those feelings. And to that point, I was that guy, not just for Kattar, but when he fought my guy Holloway, I was like, fucking Kattar's size, bro, look at those arms. Look how big he is, right? Even though Sterling's big, how much is he going to carry that weight? And how much is it going to mess with him not being the bigger guy? How much was his style, not predicated on that because that makes it sound like you're completely disrespecting, one of the best bantamweight champions, right? Not the best of all time. I'm not going to go there. Not disrespect to Aljo, but for respect for Cruz. I'm going to do some touch-up footage, but right now I'm actually siding with Calvin Kattar by decision. He is one of the few dogs who I'm siding with. Maybe not officially. Maybe I changed my pick. Again, check out my quick picks and prognostications when they drop on Fight Day or at Mañana tomorrow evening over at MMAJunkie.com. But right now, I'm leaning toward Kattar, toward decision. Even if that ends up being my pick, I probably won't play it because I'm overexposed, like a creep a creep with a trench coat hanging outside of a Sunday school. I mean, I'm exposed to that level, minus the arrest and the record. But I'm probably gonna go with Kattar. Decision, no play here as of right. Meow. Holly Holm plus 340, Kayla Harrison minus 440. So I gotta do the Southpaw report for this one, and I'm like, okay, Dan Dubois, Pacheco, Ladd, these fighters weren't Southpaws. Even like high level outside of the did she fight Julia Budd or was she just scheduled? I'm still working my way through her tape as we speak, but there's no real southpaws on there. But since she is a southpaw, it'll go the other way, and the only southpaw Holmes really faced is, of course, Valentina Shevchenko, where the check right hook's at play. Not really going to be a thing for Kayla. She's improving, but she seems more like set up jab lead hand and a little more power from the rear, but all more of a means to an end. Maybe flashing a front kick here or there, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's obviously going to be the grappler versus striker dynamic. But here's the thing. Kayla's got some decent shots and some decent timing on him. She can shoot in the open, which is what I want to see because I think she's going to have trouble tying up with Holm unless Holm is just so far gone in autopilot with her grappling trends in her MMA career that she doesn't realize that she just has to dust off the game plan that got her to the dance where she looked best, right? I know it's not the same. But for the lack of physicality and for the lack and for the the inches of difference as far as world-class judoka statuses and medals earned, I will say that just going from Kayla's technique, which is super solid, I'm not gonna say like she's more of a process driven, which I'm a bigger fan of, but she's not exactly gonna sell out, which could be both a good and a bad thing for some of these submissions, right? As far as the Newaza, comparing that part of their game. Newaza, of course, referring three different parts. Judo, the Newaza, the ground fighting part, which is not very, popular, argued, watered down under sport rules. I'm not the person to talk about that. But because of those different things, you see kind of different, games kind of within the judo subsect. Not all the judos look alike. Not all the judokas look alike. But from what I've seen, and who knows, does she move faster now that she's cut the weight? Or does she only move maybe just a little bit faster and only for a little bit longer and then hits a cliff if she can't get finishes and is forced to re-wrestle and chase Holly Holm down? Because she still seems a little plotty, and it's the footwork, It's the footwork, and it's both the potentials for improvements and the potentials for diminishing returns with a weight cut, right? Make it really difficult. I feel like, Holm, she's getting submitted by fighters that people aren't the highest on, who haven't looked great lately, so their stock is down as well, even more so. Like Shitara, Mayra Buena Silva. You see her caught in that Caitlin Vieira fight, almost caught in the choke, just running herself into chokes, stupid shit like that, right? Another Judica there, Caitlin Vieira, not nearly the level of Kayla Harrison. So I get why she's favored, but by this much, really? Women's MMA, unproven products, jumping down 20 pounds from where her last fight was, all the stuff that comes with it, the media, the different level of that at this level. She's already a very busy person in general, I believe, right? As far as being a parent, Kayla Harrison, she sounds like a super mom, like a super person outside of this, much less getting ready for a big fight, much less having to dedicate your life to a lifestyle change of a drastic weight cut and get ready for the big fight and do everything else. I'm not super high on Holly Holm here, but even though I feel like the most sensible pick is Kayla by decision, and don't be surprised, check me on Fight Day to see what I officially settle on. But this is obviously a dog or pass, right? This is obviously dog or pass. You don't have to be a big believer in Holm to throw it on her. So I probably will pick Holm and Talentmaster. I may just sack up and pick her in the quick picks as well. And although I'm not betting her straight up, what I did like / what was available to me on the round robin options this week was big enough numbers to facilitate a big 5-leg round robin instead of a 4-legger. And Holm is one of the few money lines as far as you need a money line to anchor. At least I do a lot of times for the houses I play in. And that's big enough a number at plus 340 or plus 350, right? To be its own anchor, where it's you don't even care if it cashes, whether you pick her or not. It's just you play that for the value sort of a thing, which normally isn't my style. It's maybe what I'm telling myself for peace of mind, because it was between this and, although I will have to take it in another house instead of something else perhaps. But the only other thing that I was thinking of maybe taking, and maybe I should have done that in retrospect, is Mr. Turner. Jalen Turner, round 2. Spoiler alert, I guess when we get to that fight. Even though I probably should have already broke down that fight, because I think that technically was headlining the prelims. Anyways, I guess you guys see what I'm going for there. And that is the other Southpaw versus Southpaw report. Of course, Holm is 0-1. Not even sure there's a video worth posting of that. I might just post that. And the other one I got to do is Hanato Moicano, who of course is 1-1. Guess we'll just jump over to that fight. Yeah, we'll see what I pick. But yeah, Holly Holm is in the round robin. Let's jump over to that fight since we're talking about it and shit. Hanato Moicano plus 195. Mr. Turner. Jalen Turner minus 238. Where is that from? Mr. Turner. It's from a Bruce Willis movie. I'll give you that much. And it takes place in New York. Can you find that movie? And if you can find the movie, you might have just found it by those two obvious guests. But you can, extra bonus points, you can go clip it and go reply with me on Twitter. Mr. Turner. But I got Jalen Turner. He's the southpaw here. He's not the better grappler, but his wrestling is good enough to deter Moicano's, I believe, especially coupled with his deadly front choke threats. Good enough to at least threaten even a superior grappler like Moicano. Left-sided strikes seem to be common culprits for Moicano, regardless of stance. Turner's got, he is a southpaw that will use his right side, but yes, he's very accurate with his left side, both dangerous high kicks, pinpoint crosses, coming forward and off the counter. So I'm going to pick Turner by round 2, and that's probably the only thing I may be regretting putting that in instead of Holm, or maybe I just play that, stay it up by itself. It's a decent number. If I get some wins prior to that on the prelims, we will see. Pardon me, folks, I'm all over the place here. I'm going to jump down back a bit and go to Diego Lopez, minus 142, Sadiq Youssef, plus 120. So I feel like I had the dynamic fairly broken down well, even though the result was wrong. I sat in his hedge and picked Sadiq with his kind of slip fade right hand that he hit. I did a stupid piss poor video interpretation, but I predicted that exact shot exactly right. It was there. It almost got the finish. Almost got him a 10-7 round if memory serves. But obviously, wasn't able to hold that up. He needs his pocket to recoup. Fighters who are durable and can attack, can present problems, much less one that can attack as dynamically as Lopez. So if Lopez can have the durability to stay in some hard counters that he's probably going to eat from Sadiq, then I think he can overwhelm him. However, that doesn't necessarily mean I think he can overwhelm him to a finish or the usual club and subs that guys like Oliveira or Lopez are seemingly ever-presently live for, right? I actually think Lopez can get this done by decision. I don't think that's like the most greatest number in the world either, though. So there really wasn't much that I wanted to play on this fight. I'm not trying to play the Lopez chalk, especially with what I got going on, even if the price lowered. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one, but the pick is Lopez by decision. All right, next fight, Jessica Barriastache. I can't pronounce it. Andrade. I don't know, but it gives me a cool excuse to post my Henry Armstrong clip with the Sisters of Mercy in the background, as well as my favorite clip of her Kimura slamming Chud Hose. By the way, Death Taxes and Dan Tom losing his ass on Chud Hose cards. Oh my godness, there's certain people on certain cards I cannot forget betting, and I bet Rose last time out too. By the way, it's not even anything like that. I can't bet the card she's on. But good thing about Andrade, I got to post those clips, which are always fun. Marina Rodriguez plus 120. Was gonna pick the dog and maybe even play the dog, but then I was reminded of Rodriguez's recent losing skid that she had endured with that stoppage there. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I forgot. And then that also made me reminded, and I'm not an ageist, but, she is 36. And I'm like, crap. She's got some deceptive miles, too, with her kickboxing and Muay Thai as well. So it's tricky. It's really tricky with this one, right? Because Andrade, I could see her getting lit up. But she could also light up Rodriguez both on the feet and on the floor. And if she's encouraged or tricked into grappling, because I feel like Andrade sometimes needs to be tricked into using her grappling. She doesn't exactly go to it as much as she should when she should. She'll have that advantage there as well. And rather than sweat aside or worry, am I getting enough dog money to justify a play on Rodriguez? Will the price come down enough to get enough of a discount to justify a play on Andrade, if that's the side I end on? I'm just going to pick Andrade to win inside the distance. I'm thinking a ground and pound stoppage, but the reason why I'm not too tied to a method is because, A, she legitimately does have multiple pathways, but I just need a stoppage in general because the only play I took, it opened at plus 100. You can find it at plus 105 most houses. I was able to find it at plus 110. I know, big whoop. But I put a unit on that. That's my only bet on the card. Fight doesn't go the distance. I just need someone to finish the other person. I feel like their styles are potent for it. Even though they're both playable prices, I don't know if they're worth it to sweat. Why don't I just take the median between those two prices that's still at plus money, mind you, and not have to sweat aside? Give it to me, baby. It's not even a total. It doesn't go the distance. So that's what I got there. All right, baby. You guys, I'm too poor because all my money went to Thailand, and now I'm paying it off. I pretty much used the last of my gambling winnings for this trip, basically. And that's why I was so pissed. I've been bleeding money because I'm just like, it was going to eventually cost me my trip if I didn't just pull the trigger and go. That's why I got the fuck out of here and went, because I would much rather spend it over there, way worth the money, as it should be for you, regardless of your circumstances. I'm going to make that judgment and gander that going out, traveling, experiencing other cultures is better than watching MMA over and over again. Bunch of shit cards for the most part, much less watching MMA and or donating your money to this silly sport. But yeah, here I am with this show, here to donate some money to this silly sport, back on a weekly basis, I guess. But if there was someone that's going to get me out of the grind and spend that money, if I had it, which I don't, I told people it was only for cherry, vanilla, and it's for Jim fucking Miller, baby. Jim Miller, son. Jimmy Miller. You guys know it. I had to ban BJ Penn from a bunch of my lists. He had to step down as the number one all-time lightweight in my books. Not greatest, but my favorite. Jimmy Miller, of course. Jim Miller. Just amazing. Wins record, lightweight all time, submissions, finishes. Dude, he's got so many standings. He's crazy, man. You could say he's almost Scottie Pippen-like with, he's so underrated, not being at the top, but yet having his fucking hands in so many records, People didn't realize, Pippen beat Jordan with not just all the defensive and assist stats, both pre- and postseason and regular season, but he also scored more three-pointers than MJ did, and did it after they moved back the three-point line to college regulation, whereas when Jordan did it in the early 90s finals against Portland, it was top of the key three. But does Scotty P get credit for that? Dan, relax. Move on. It was a long time ago. The point is, Jimmy Miller-san is underrated, and he's under more records than you guys might realize there. And even though I always hated this matchup every time it got booked, because throughout their entire career, the 4 times that it's gotten booked, dating back almost 8 or 9 to 10 years now, I believe. Well, by the way, go check out my top 13 Jim Miller fights, baby. I actually add context. I don't just do the lazy listicles. I actually try to, so when AI eventually fucking takes over and, fires all us media, so everybody, all the chuds are happy, but meanwhile everybody chuds and none chuds are alike. Like, where did all the good content and quality go? Entertainment and people we used to follow, why are they all destitute, not working? When AI does that, hopefully it will be a little less bad, assuming, because these programs are designed to at least try a little hard with my nuanced work. But yeah, they're gonna be outgoing all my fucking work, so I might as well do good today, folks, so that the AI of tomorrow will be slightly less R-word dumb. Anyways, but Jim Miller, I'd never liked this matchup for him, especially in the big cage, right? Because the movement of Bobby Green, counters, numbers, it's gonna be one where it's like either Jim Miller, it's a stoppage late, or you want it to be stopped late. And it probably just goes to the decision with a clear Jim Miller win. That's how this fight goes most of the time. That's probably why Bobby Green is favored. However, Bobby Green is the fighter who I was talking about, who's coming back from not just knockouts faster than I talked about, right? Not just right on the border of a flash quick knockout like a Yuri Prochazka. They all can be dangerous, folks. I'm not trying to minimize the one Prochazka went through. But this was a life changer, right? This was like, it wasn't a singular life changer like Steve Bosse playing the flute from Thiago Santos. You guys remember? That was a throwback. People, half of you probably don't even realize what the fuck that was I referenced. The rest of you were like, whoa, that wasn't even that far back. But, no one references that one. But it was like a life changer, like of just a prolonged beatdown. Is this guy going to be the same after this, right? And he's coming back fast, because that's what Bobby Green does. He never just takes breaks. He's a war horse in his own right. However, Bobby Green doesn't show to have the same durability as Jim, right? Maybe their stoppages total line up with each other, but if you go knockout loss for knockout loss, contextually, rocked versus rocked, taking good shots versus taking good shots, I think Jim Miller lines up better than him overall and column for column, in that category. So in other words, what I'm getting at here is this a case of where they're catching him at the right time, right? Like, it's such a gross example. Like Tito Chuck 3, right? Has it been long enough where big head guy can get the get drunk and hit people, Mickey's guy? Can we finally get it? Can fire finally beat ice, right? This might be that, right? And not just Bobby Green, perfect timing with the what's relevant of his knockout loss, but again, the overall durability and trends, right? Bobby Green's been fighting for a while too, right? And there is this too, where Jim Miller was talking about this exact thing, where he had to not just figure out how to fight with Lyme, but he had to figure out how to fight old. Because, going back to watch Jim Miller, me and Brad Chuck, we did that rewatch of Jim Miller, Matt Weinman back at Fight for the Troops 2, one of the most violent fight night cards ever. And like that Jim Miller is just going 3 rounds, balls out, not afraid to gas. Lyme disease Jim Miller, getting older Jim Miller, has to manage himself more, right? Like, goes balls out the first Lozon fight, and then what do you see the second Lozon fight? He still rightfully wins, and albeit it was, in the judge's defense, a closer fight. However, back to what I say. Again, by the way, guys, another thing when I'm gone is just like, I can't get fights right, but everybody's like, well, quality of cards went down. I'm like, Who's been calling that and been getting crap for calling that for years? What are heavyweights doing on main card? Shout out the Couchside Judges. They've been taking my shtick and complaining about heavyweights now. But, it's like, who's been complaining about that? Oh, why are they doing rematches on undercards now? Not just me. They've been doing a lot of rematch. Who's been saying that since 2022? Sorry. And so it's been extra annoying, like, not just being on the sidelines, but being on the sidelines and still losing my ass off while being right about, like, all the worst things in the world, you know? Which, by the way, speaking of being right on things, I was like, maybe I'm too hard on them, the Dricus Duplessis guy, and then sure enough, he's talking about summoning people. And then I was on my guy Justin's show like I talked about, and I was like, man, am I just being too fucking hipster, contrarian Dan Tom with this anti-John Jones stuff? He seemed really nice at the seminar. It's... Dan, why don't you just be nicer to them? Maybe he's not a nice guy, okay? You can't go recreate history, but why don't you just start saying nicer things about him? I legitimately had that thought, and as soon as I have these thoughts, of course, it's like, John Jones threatens to kill a tester. I'm like, God damn it! Why am I continually being proven right on, like, the worst things, right? Like, things that I don't want to be right on. But I continually am proven right on. So that's been... Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, folks, but that's been kind of annoying too. But yeah, rounding back to these veterans and Jim Miller and timing, right? Relevance, knockout trend, catching somebody at the right time, right? You go back through all these things. Hopefully I'm picking up on the train tracks here. But what Jim Miller was talking about, and I was alluding to earlier, he spoke about this dynamic himself. He said, what I was explaining, he had to learn how to fight old, not just with Lime. And thankfully, he has a style that does so. And that's what I was talking about, the judges. You compare the first Joe Lozon fight to the second Joe Lozon fight. And it's a split decision win. And sure enough, again, one of the other main things that trends, that's where I was at. Trends, again, last week, and I shouldn't brag about this because I'm not, because he was on the wrong side of that fucking trend. Although there were injuries and fouls also in that Chris Curtis fight. Also on the wrong side of. Starting to feel like fucking Kevin fucking Von Erich over here. I'm cursed. I don't want to bet these fighters. They're going to get injured and I don't want to bet no more. Like, I've been like Kevin Von Erich sleeping in the fucking office last few weeks, folks. That's the truth of it, right? But like, no, body work encounters, of course, being discounted. And I got into it, not even meaning to get into it because texts are terrible ways to communicate. I'm a very passionate person. And as much as I love my media colleagues, the ones that are actually do their due diligence, just like I have my many downsides. The one downside with them is sometimes they'll be a bit defensive if you say anything about judges that could be taken as negative, even though like not coming at the judges. Like, I simply think it's just an Occam's razor thing where it's honestly harder just to, and judges will tell you this in their defense too. It is harder to see the body work and the counters, right? I just wish we could acknowledge this, I'm sick and tired of people going, why didn't this guy win? And then it's just like he countered and worked the body. And now colleagues are being better at citing that. I mentioned the Couchside Judges. They will cite body work and gotten better about that when adjudicating rounds after the fact. Aaron Bronstetter, Luke Thomas, the Morning Combat guys, Brian Campbell. Of course, all the analysts, the fight side guys, they all know that the Zane Simons of the world, they all know this shit. I've been preaching it for years as well. But it's just annoying that we just keep seeing happen over and over again. And of course, again, Jim Miller, what's the difference with that first Joe Lozon fight? He's fighting older, back to my point, right? And he is countering and working the body. And Brian Stan's like, oh, Jim Miller doing a real good job working the body, which is really smart against a guy like Lozon who shows the body effect and work. And sure enough, it was a split decision, right? They can't decide who wins. It's classic. It's just, I don't know anybody who can keep calling these trends that are either keep being validated or continue to be validated and aging like wine in time. Yet I can't call fights and bets to protect, to save my life. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Variance. That's such a funny word. So yeah, I think, those things, he has been able to fight like an old man, right? And Jim Miller says that, whereas Bobby Green, he has a style that's not going to age well. Speed, reaction time, and durability is what his thing depends on. And, Bobby Green's always been hard to hit, but he's always been, hurtable, There are plenty of Bobby Greens where he's been out, like the draw with Drakkar Klose, and these are the fights where he's just like doing the wacky dance and he still recovers and this and that and whatnot. And so I don't know if Bobby Green can fight old. He is not on pace trajectory to fight old well with his style, right? It's not forecasted well. And B, he's still trying to figure that process out. Meanwhile, Miller already does, right? Now that is a little woo-woo, general overhead, heavily macro meta analysis talk. But more specific stylistic stuff, kind of like we were talking about with Ferguson, Gaethje, Holloway. And you even see the dynamic with Bobby Green to like Jared Gordon for as long as that fight lasted before the head clash, right? Because Jared Gordon was doing surprisingly well. Now, I still would have picked Green to pull away eventually, but Gordon was doing surprisingly well. You got to give him credit there, and he was doing the smart thing when it comes to fighters who are good with, different unique styles, a lot of movement and volume. Instead of worrying about keeping up with them, both their speed, both their footwork and movement, and their striking numbers. That's how you get drowned if you try to. No, you keep up with them by letting them come to you. Let them come to you. And I think that's what Miller has been more apt to letting fighters do in general and capitalizing on those mistakes as a veteran. And that is the way to fight Bobby Green, even a prime Bobby Green. And prime, post-prime, whatever now is or closest to now is a Bobby Green. You go look at the Southpaw report. Southpaw counters are a common culprit. I know it looked like I just rehashed it with Jalen Turner in there, but I actually did go throw in some Jalen Turner clips, albeit there's only like 2 or 3 that are relevant from that short fight that he had with Bobby Green. And it is a double jab cross from the orthodox stance that ends up capping off the finish. The Kerry Hatley Kumite finish. Call those as well. Call those trends as well. Add that to the trends that I call, but can't seem to get on the right side of things. That's why I say come here for the fades and the analysis, folks, and steal my notes. That's about all I'm good for. Lately, it seems. We'll see if we can change that trend here. But yeah, those classic counters, southpaw counters, the left hand and that check right hook, and Jim Miller has been throwing those for a minute now. Jim Miller's been surprising superior striker since knocking down Dwayne Bag Ludwig back in the day, right? Going a distance majority decision. He could have won if he just stood up with Poirier. Poirier's leg was toast. Poirier meant to destroy his leg, and Miller got the jump on him there, right? Miller's very durable with his legs and his leg kicks. So that's another thing that Bobby Green, it's going to be troublesome. So I don't think, I still think the footwork and the cage dynamic and the style dynamic makes Bobby Green a deserved favorite. I think it, unless it's a club and sub, I think it takes submissions and Jim Miller's wrestling out of the equation. The big cage and the style. However, where they're at right now, I think Jim Miller's going to be just as live throughout this fight, and even if Bobby Green's doing well and continues to do well from round one to round 3, and he's pouring it on in round 3, I think that's just going to make Jim Miller swing back even harder. And even in that scenario, power is the last thing to go. And I just don't trust Bobby Green's chin. I think the knockout is actually really live here for this fight. And so I played Miller at plus 155 because it's Jim Miller and because I ended up finding a pretty decent number and inside the distance. I couldn't turn that down. So instead of going 1.5 at 155, I just went 1 unit. And I've also played Miller inside the distance at half a unit at plus 215 for that 1.5 unit total exposure. If Jim Miller does win, it's probably going to be inside the distance regardless, right? So those things can go one in the own and almost pocket about 3 units net there. But for the KO, which is going to be on my prop squad that I'm going to write when I get out of here after I edit and eat and all that, is going to be Jim Miller by knockout. And so I still technically have money on that, but don't have to overexpose myself. The happy medium there, well, throw it in the last and final 5th leg of my round robin. Miller by KO plus 500, which we also have home money line plus 340. Do Bronx ITD plus 275. Holloway by split plus 800. Zhang round 2 plus 550. Of course, I did 10 combinations of 2 teamers at 0.17 U apiece for 1.7 units total, and it parlays also together at plus some stupid number for 1 unit. So that's what I did there. Lastly, but not leastly, opening the card, minus 305, Davison, Dice, Figueiredo. I almost got excited like all the bettors have. But I don't know, is Figueiredo getting too old? He's facing another aging talent, and Cody Garbrandt, plus 245 to come back on that former champion. They're both former champions of different divisions. Cody Garbrandt, former champ of bantamweight, where they're fighting Figueiredo, who recently finally made his bantamweight debut. He was always a bantamweight, which is why I've been calling for the Peter Yan fight since 2018, which is the fight that should have been happening here. Just like Aldo should have faced Cruz if these matchmakers knew what half they're doing with these lower weight classes and stop disrespecting the lower weight classes. Please. Figueiredo, so this makes me nervous. I wanted to blow up my play here, but I kept it to 1 unit inside the distance. Figueiredo minus 105, 0.105, just for a unit return. That's my only action on this card. Not really any other lines I like. This one seemed the obvious one, and it almost was inviting me to hammer. However, I only played a unit out of spec for Garbrandt. He's been working with Jose Aldo's old striking coach, working with other people out here in Vegas, was working with Dewey Cooper for a bit. I don't know if he still is, but working out here in Vegas, taking time off, a lot of time in between fights, even though there were good things and not so good things from memory. I gotta refresh myself here with some of Garbrandt's fights off the top of my head, but because I'm trying to give you guys exact examples. I'm just talking my ass here from what I remember watching, and now it's not. Okay, but yeah, basically I'm just leaving room to be surprised because Garbrandt, he's going to have the big cage to move around in, and even if we get the shaky Garbrandt that's still feeling out his confidence, that could make this a long fight. It could make it a frustrating fight for Figueiredo, especially if Figueiredo is coming in really wanting to counter and not expend himself and shoot takedowns or pressure as much. That could be problematic, at least for the bet part of it. Because, in other words, I do feel like the door is open for a weird decision. Of course, Cody Garbrandt could win by knockout, and that is an upset path. I just feel that's a smaller percentage than this being a weird fight by decision. That being said, I do feel like action is the way to go. It seems like the basic take. I know, and me, when I get on the dudes that and just get all hyped on the dudes that and make fun of the MMA gamblers for getting hyped on. That's when they usually lose, whether they're young guys or popular guys. But the jinx is here, folks. Let's see. First bet of the night, too. Woohoo. That's going to be a real oof. I hope people listening right now damn it, Dan just jinxed us on our Figueiredo play. God damn it, he jinxed Figueiredo. I apologize, but yeah, I got Figueiredo inside the distance. All right, how do we do on time here? Probably long, 152. Jesus. All right, I'm going to try to clean up the chat, and then I'll recap, pick some plays at the end. John Atlas agreed. Fiziev won that fight. Thank you. Pepe Silva in the house. What up, Pepe? The return of Dan Tom. The return of the Blazer. Let's get rich this weekend, brother. I hope so, man. I hope you keep killing it and doing well. As long as the rest of you good homies out there, man. I'm trying my best. If anything, I can give some good analysis, and at least I can laugh in the shit puddles I make for myself. Because I make these for myself at the end. Don't feel bad for me, folks. I complain about a lot of stuff. I'm an adult. I make my own decisions, as are you, and we should take accountability for them as such. So, that being said, I wish you all the best. Chronic Combat Conversations. Love that Dan is back and better than ever. I don't know about that, but we'll try. Nickel round 2. I like that. See, I like that contrarian play. I was thinking about that nickel round 2 as well. But I'm just so overexposed, and I get so turned off on playing those fights. But yeah, I would add that. I'd say nickel by KO or nickel round 2 are like the only realistically justifiable plays, in my opinion. Tony C, send a super sticker for good luck. Hope YouTube doesn't steal it. Oh, you did? Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you for the donations, super stickers, super thanks. You guys can do it. I don't really deserve it for not being consistent, for being a big losing mofo. But if you guys want to support me, encourage me to come back on a weekly basis here. We had a week off. We'll see. I might come back just for a top 5 show. We'll see. I might have to bug my guy, Combat Chronicles, see if he wants to, I might just shoot in the dark, see if he wants to bust a top 590 show. Because again, folks, even though we get a break next week, I still got to pump out evergreen content. So it's like I'm going forward in time, back, and it's just so much tape. I barely watch anything these days. I still got to catch up on the Dune movies. I'm going to try to do that next week. So we'll see there. Jimmy Kudo, so cool to see the chat and the support. It is really cool to see you guys. Awesome. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Ghost Phantom, off topic, but have you ever heard of Cagecraft Podcast? No, I haven't. Val Dewar, a cool guy on Twitter. Dylan K and Jesse. Don't recognize those people by their names, but that Val Dewar cat seems cool, so I'm sure it's a cool podcast. Great shout there, Ghost. All right, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys again. Apologies. Again, I'm more active on Instagram. It's like this handle that you see here, except it's underscores between the Dan Tom and the MMA. Just throw 2 underscores in between the 3 word thingies. And yeah. Dan Tom MMA on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Still been producing my regular work at Junkie and Action Network. I didn't go anywhere. Dude, I've been having a hard enough time getting through my weeks even without like the podcast and like posting. Like that's how busy I've been. So this week, coming back on this week, having all the articles. Holy crap, it's been nuts. So I don't deserve your time. I appreciate it. I definitely don't even deserve the likes, much less super likes or super thanks, but you can do so, especially if we go cash this weekend. You want to come back and tip, you can come back and do that if you feel so inclined. Hopefully YouTube doesn't steal it. And thank you guys. I'll come back with shouts, and maybe I got to fix the Amazon link, so I didn't catch up on Amazon Reads because I went to go use the Amazon link myself, and I got to fix that beesh. I still got a lot of stuff to catch up on, so I'm going to do my best. That's about it. Just shouts to you guys for supporting, keeping me going. It's the vacation's needing your guys' support's needed, because I'll tell you, just going a year, because it's about a year now since I had that crap happen with like all the, you had like the Manpreet guy, some other dude did a betting thing, and like neither one of them kind of, had to do with me, even though I didn't do anything wrong. And the other definitely had nothing to do with me. Either way, I didn't do shit wrong. And I had all that bullshit come my way. And then all the trolls, plus all the Drakish trolls come at once. And all the personal life, it all came. It feels like everything's been chaos. And I've just been rolling with punches this whole year. So Thailand was just amazing. I was so happy. I hope that comes across. I hope I don't come across as a negative prick. I'm so grateful. So privileged to have gone. Thank you so much if I met you. Much love coming back. And hopefully coming back strong for you guys. But need some wins, man. It is depressing. It really does. I haven't won since fucking Johnny Walker versus Ankalaev 2 at the beginning of the year, folks. Like showing up every Saturday with your clown makeup on, and bending over, going, "Who's up first?" in the shower, in the prison shower. It's not fun. So yeah, shit, man. I hate to ask for that, but if anybody needs a win, it's probably your boy here. But even that, I could have like a big night and I still would be scared, because like last time I had a big night, like I got tortured like this for like 3 months. So like I feel like I need like 3 or 4 big nights, and then I'll feel somewhat calm and confident again. So let's get that first one this weekend. All right, recapping picks from the top. Taking Poatan, baby. Poatan, baby. Taking Poatan over Jamal. Roll the door if you're coming in. That's right, Jamal. Show me what you're working. It's easy, Dan. So Sean Connery has a mind of his own. He says things. All right. Next, I'm taking Zhang Weili over Yan Xiaonan. Taking Max Holloway, going with my heart. I shuffled. I waffled. I took a 2-hour podcast, Dan, all just so you could bet on all your favorite fighters. Really? Poatan, DuBronx, Jim Miller, Holloway. Wow, I mean, bigger, double Bo Nickel odds that Dan Tom was going to do that shit, huh? I'm not even that guy usually in my defense traditionally. I'm actually pretty good about even being contrarian to myself. But goddamn, am I not asking to lose by like, because it totally looks like, even though I can show my work, it totally looks like I'm just fucking falling into my biases. And I deserve all that shit and the smoke. So bring it. Taking, again, DuBronx over Tsarukyan. Taking Bo Nickel over Cody Brundage, surprise, surprise. Taking Yuri Prochazka over Rakic. Not super confident in that one. Leaning toward Kattar over Sterling. Not super confident regardless of who I pick. Check me on quick picks and prognostications for these fights like that where I'm not super confidente in. Leaning toward Harrison's a smart pick, but I might just end up picking Holm since she's in my round robin. I'm going to take her in Toutmaster, and it's really a dog or pass situation. But it's probably Harrison by decision, folks. Taking Lopez by decision. Taking Mr. Turner, round 2. If I do add anything, it might be that, because I might have remorse from putting a WMMA dog chalk instead of Mr. Turner round 2. We'll see how much I regret that on fight day. Taking Andrade over Marina-Rodriguez. Taking Jamila-san over Bobby King Green. Still love me some Bobby Green. Taking Figueiredo over Cody Garbrandt. For plays, round robin, Miller KO plus 500, home money line plus 340. May swap a Turner round 2 somewhere in there. Do Bronx inside the distance plus 275. Holloway split decision plus 800. Zhang round 2 plus 550. Round robin all those 2-teamers times 10 combinations at 0.17 U apiece for 1.7 unit total exposure with just one ducat, 0.01. Parlaying all those results together, son. Straight plays, I got 4 coming your way. 2 dogs, 2 favorites. Actually 3 dogs, 1 favorite. We got Jim Millisan at 1 unit. A little more on Holloway at plus 135 at 1.11. A little bit louder now. A little bit louder now. We got Poetan minus 125 for 1.5 units. Du Bronx plus 175 for 1.5 units. Round flyers, we got Holloway round 3 plus 2,800, round 4 plus 3,300, round 5 plus 4,000, 0.17 U each. With hedges on Gaethje round 3 KO plus 1,100, round 4 KO plus 1,500 with Scottie Pippins on each of those, with also a little Michael Jordan 0.23 U attachment for a round 5 KO Justin Gaethje prop to match the late round possibilities. I know the way I did the math, so long as, Gaethje or Holloway don't win by unanimous decision, or Gaethje doesn't win by an early knockout, I should make out with at least, anywhere from a unit and a half to maybe upwards to 1,000. We'll see. That's, of course, thinking positively. So we're doing it. And we got Miller inside the distance, plus 215 to add to his exposure up to 1.5 U on that, not including the round robin. Zhang inside the distance, minus 115. Laid a prop hammer, for me at least, for props, 2 units on that bad boy, which some houses may even limit you. I don't know. Who knows? Usually they limit you 500 or some shit? I don't know. Yan, round 1 KO, plus 4,000, 0.25 units, just as a little flyer hedge there. Poetan, I did the round flyers 2, 3, and 4 KO. Round 2 KO plus 650. Round 3 KO plus 1,100. Round 4 KO plus 1,800. Scottie Pippen, 0.33 U each. Probably find better numbers than those, as to most of my numbers. I don't usually get the great numbers, folks, and I give it to you real. Real. As I said, real, not raw. I'm talking about a different thing. Jesus, Dan, come on, we got to go there. Figueiredo. I need a Brandon Royval transition fast. Figueiredo inside the distance, minus 105, 0.105 unit. And Andrade-Rodriguez fight doesn't go the distance, plus 110, 1 unit. Follow the picks on Action Network. I'm still plugging in the Gaethje-Holloway round flyers, as well as my round robins and long shot parlay. But I think everything else is almost up there. I've been actually a good boy and actually plugging my plays in as I go. But I'm going to get going, finish out the prop squad. I'm going to have my full card, quick picks and prognostications. The full card, baby. Full card. I haven't done that since old school MMA. Mixed martial analyst days. It's been almost a decade, folks. Peek that on Junkie, whether it's Friday night or Saturday morning. Share it about. Share my stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm back to actually posting and caring about that kind of. Not really, but you will help motivate me seeing that as many people care as they do, because I'm blown away as many of you do already as now. So thank you for liking. I don't deserve any tips or contributions, but any way you support the show, positive messages even. Arguably the most valuable to me. Not saying you to do it. I'm just saying, as far as what's meant the most, it's not even about the money is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you need to get in my DMs. I'm saying just you guys' kind words, man. I don't deserve it. I love you guys. I missed you guys, and we'll see. Maybe we'll be back if we've got good news to report and you guys want a top 5. If you want, go bug my guy Kyle Mackless in his podcast. Bug him. Tell him. Do the top 5 90s fights with Dan. And if there's anybody else you want on the top 5 show, go bug them and tag both of us and make it really obnoxious and socially awkward. Hopefully it's like nobody like that we like dislike each other, because like I've been tagged with like people I dislike. I'm like, I don't know why you're tagging us together, but all right. But all right, yeah. Jimmy Kudo, Synchro Wing back with a whaley. Under catch ghost mentioned the high kicks. What makes it risky? You can get hit in the head if you catch a certain way with the high kicks. I think Aljo's good at it too, but Cater doesn't kick. Yeah, Cater doesn't kick much. There's my man. Liam picks fights. Yo, brother, good to catch you live. I gave you shots earlier in the show. If you care to rewatch, I wouldn't suggest wasting your time, Liam, but I gave you some nice flowers, sir. Chud Hose, James Hendrick, great shout in the Southpaw Pod. Shouts to Southpaw Pod. My guy James, Sam Yang, and Jason Sargis I was just texting with today. Pod loves using that. Amazing. How far I've gone? 21. Rios Truesdale made me so happy when you posted your Bangtao Thailand trip. What types of positions did you learn from Alex Shield? He actually taught something that like is right up my alley. It's like he calls like he's got a version of the claw with the iron claw coming out. I'm like, you need to get a version of that. But a claw is like a wrestling when someone's turtle, you're grabbing from under their armpit to their neck. You know, you can use that, go over right over their neck for like a choke threat. And the other is like the cross wrist ride, aka Dagestani handcuff. It was just adjusting my grips on that, how to play off that further, retain back positions, just really cool stuff actually. Alex Shield is the man. Go follow him. Josh Hinger, black belt. Jimmy Kudo. I just want to give a shout out to Jim Miller. Unbelievable longevity, discipline, and should be praised. I'm glad I stuck on just at the end here and went over 2 hours just to get that in. Thank you, Jimmy Kudo. You the man. I like to say the R word too, but instead of saying since YouTube removes it automatically. That is one way to do it. You know. Li Jing Liang, special strength was another way I used to refer to it back in the day. Fastest KO turnarounds. Yep. Green 31 day. Yep. This is what I was plugging you earlier for, Leon. Yep. Liam, sorry. Prochazka 152. This is all in the chat. You guys can go back, and I know I'm scrolling through it fast on the thing, but you guys can actually go in the chat replay, which I make available, and you can see this cool stuff Liam is kind enough to throw in the chat. Shout out to Aaron Bronstetter from Ghost Phantom. His written articles are very thoughtful, and his interviews are professional. I love and I miss talking to Aaron, man. Do you guys miss our fight day previews? Me and Aaron do. I know I miss it. He's in town. I haven't got to see him yet. He's one of the people I always try to see, too. It's just been so busy. We'll see. I'll go dress up as a suit. I'll dress up as a suit tomorrow, and maybe dinner will find me. Boy, I better get the fuck off here. I can really talk, huh? You'll be, hey, Stefan Summer. Speaking of my Canadian brothers, there's Aaron Bronstetter. Look at that handsome fellow with the suit. Not as handsome as you're looking with those colors are popping, sir. Looking good as per usual, Mr. B. All the best, Dan. Really enjoyed your analysis of the show. Thank you. Jeff A, protect your neck. Thank you, Jeff. PYM for life. James Kendrick. Whaley plus 500 subs pop. Do it. Alex, I think it's going to be ground and pound, but the sub is live as Synchro Wing puts. Thank you guys for adding in. Hope I was able to get to everybody. Enjoy picks and plays, and hopefully that last didn't throw out the end too much, but I'll timestamp this all soon enough. All right. Good luck on your picks and plays. Fuck the IDF. Be good to one each other, and always protect your neck.